Yeah, we got the energy.
Jay Crawford, Adam the Bull, Garrett Bush, Dustin Fox, Jason Lloyd, Tyvis Powell, plus, ba-da-da-da-da, you're loving him, Mikey McNuggets. And so many big names, it would take me hours to say all of their names. The ultimate Cleveland sports show starts now. Booyah!
Hey, happy Monday. I hope everybody had a great weekend. Cleveland Marathon was run yesterday. Chris Renkel from upstairs, 3 News, finished the marathon. I thought it was his first. I guess this is his fifth or sixth.
Fifth marathon.
Dang. And
yeah, Gabby ran the marathon. Miss Nuggets. Shout out to Miss Nuggets. First marathon.
wow.
She had been training for 5 months now. Had run 2 half marathons, never ran a full marathon.
That's awesome.
Finished sub 4 hours. 3 hours,
Wow.
58 minutes.
What is that average? Like a
9-minute pace, give or take.
Wow,
yeah,
that's pretty good.
She was hauling ass, and it was really cool just to be down there. The atmosphere. First time I've been part of the
A lot of
Cleveland
folks
Marathon.
just cheering people on.
Just cheering people on, and you know when you see someone train and put in that much work, to see like the culmination of it was really, really cool. And to see her break 4 hours was awesome. And funny story, in the immediate aftermath, you finish, they have that grassy area.
Mm-hmm.
She has her little blanket on, and she's like, I can't move, I'm dead. I want to die. Like, that was miserable.
Oh.
I never want to do that again. I get a text this morning, she's like, I got the itch, I want to run another one. I'm like, that didn't even last 12 hours. Like,
So you went, so did you stay the whole time? Or how did this work?
We saw, so her family came in, her parents or sisters came in to support, and we caught her at mile 18. And then came back down here to the finish line.
Wow.
So instead of trying to follow around, because there's so many road closures, it was hard to move around.
I feel so bad.
Downtown.
Shout
out to Miss Nuggets.
That's wild. Shout out to her.
That's a Lifetime Achievement Award.
Shout
honestly.
out to your relationship, because that means you are truly a really solid partner. I'm feeling horrible about myself because, my ex-fiance, she was like, yeah, I'm running this marathon. I was like, I'll catch you when you get to the crib, bro. Yeah, what am I going to do? Just sit around and look? I mean, that's
Steve says
that's 4 hours. What you talking about? Just walk around like
that's
crazy?
a small investment.
4 hours?
Bro, you're going to start running. You understand that?
No, she's been trying to get me to run.
I know you hate running.
I have no interest in running. I can't.
I know that you hate it, but here's the problem. It's now become her passion.
I know it's an issue.
And
it's an issue.
If
she was a runner when we met, we wouldn't be here now. That's part of the issue.
Oh, so she just woke up and was like, I'm running.
Country runner.
No,
she ran,
Did you hear how Aunt just said?
That was good. She ran track, but it was like sprints in high school.
Wow.
And then she was looking for something to do and started picking up running, wanted to run. She ran the half marathon last year, the rock and roll one, and the towpath.
Yeah.
It's like, screw it.
Eventually, she's going to put the squeeze on you. She's going to be like, Mike, why don't you just go for a run with me?
We've done a couple, and my knee, honest to God, and I've said this before, and G, I'm sure you could attest this, I'll play basketball for 5 hours straight.
I don't know how your knee takes
fine.
that.
Hardwood, fine. I can't play outside anymore. My left knee on cement.
Well, that's the first thing that goes is the pavement.
Completely
You'll never get that off.
Hardwood, fine.
Never get that
If
off.
I go run 2 miles outside, my knee kills me.
Yeah.
So, it's kind of a built-in excuse, but it's also totally legit.
Wait till she get into these tough mutters.
Yeah.
Wait till
I would do a tough mudder.
yeah.
I would do a Spartan race.
Psycho.
They done lost them, but wait till they get into the
Spartan race?
Ironmans. I ain't doing. You gonna be biking 3,000 miles, swimming.
You know who does those mutters, Steve? Rob Powers over at 5 does that. And I mean, that guy's he's just an animal.
Nah, I'm cool on that.
Also want to give a couple shouts. I had some other friends that ran. Brendan, my buddy Brendan, just turned 40 this week.
Finish?
He ran the half in an hour and 27 minutes, which is a 6:40 pace. He's a psychopath, but Brendan, congrats.
Yeah, that's it.
Tyler ran the half in 2:29. Shout out Tyler. And then Mac and his wife Sarah are just crazy runners. Mac finished a full marathon in 2 hours 48 minutes, and his wife Sarah finished in 3 hours and 16 minutes. So shout out to all you guys. Shout out to everyone who ran, because if you could finish 26.2 miles, you're a certified psychopath. But congratulations, because that's something that 99% of the world could never do. It's a legit accomplishment.
That's how they scratch their competitive itch. People that were competitive younger in life, and
Brendan played soccer at Akron, and now he's just trying to find stuff to keep him.
Yeah.
Well, that's usually what it is. It's former athletes that want to. Now, me, I played one baseball game Saturday. That was our season opener. My knees hurt now.
Man, I played NCAA 25 the other day.
You tired?
On the PS5, I was
cramping
cooking.
up?
I was faster than I ever been, bro.
But your thumbs are a mess now, right?
This one right
got
here.
the lactic hands?
This, and I got the, I done broke a lot of these fingers. They ain't good. I got the Sons of Anarchy hands, the Clays.
Well, congratulations to all that competed.
I got you.
We're talking Cavs, we're talking Browns, we're talking Guardians today. What a terrible weekend for the Guards. Ant behind the glass. What was your marathon time?
I didn't get out of bed until 5 p.m. on Sunday, so that's my.
Wow, what'd you do on Saturday night?
What'd you do on Saturday?
No, I actually didn't leave my house all weekend.
So
I just didn't feel very good yesterday. So
oh, wow.
I laid in bed all day.
Well, are you feeling any better? Coming around?
No, I'm good. It was just one of those days. Like, woke up with a raging headache, so I laid in bed until 5 p.m.
Oh, yeah, those suck, man. I've had those.
He's 27.
Many times.
Bro.
It only gets worse.
I know.
It only gets
I'm
worse.
not going to make it to see 37 at this rate.
Yeah. It's rough in them streets.
Streets is tough.
Koby Altman's about to talk in about 5 minutes here.
Yeah,
we got Jason Lloyd at the Cavs facility. He's going to join us live to fill us in on whatever Koby says. And I already know what he's going to say. He's going to say they're not breaking up the core four, so we can get pre-med about that now.
He's going to say nothing.
But it's going to happen, and I'm very excited to see how.
What time's Jay on? 11:40?
Whenever he's done, I assume he's going to talk for 20
He hasn't started
minutes.
yet. He was supposed to start at 11, so that's not a great sign.
Fluid time to when Jason.
Yeah, so we'll have to move him around a little bit. We're talking Browns. We're talking Cavs, we're talking Guardians, which is where we're going to start. You want to do your read before we dive in?
Yeah, guys, before we get into Guardians, the NBA playoffs are in full swing, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get on the action. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live. With player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays, fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. Which players are showing up in the biggest moments, and how can you track their trending to build up your next bet, and what it looks like to combine live props mid-game based on how the action unfolds. If you got a read on somebody who's heating up, why not back it up with the same game parlay? New to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com/UCSS and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. You make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA.
All right. It's funny, just hearing the words NBA playoffs kind of gives me a pit in my stomach right now.
Yeah.
Will you guys watch? And we're going to talk about
yeah.
I'm not watching. I won't watch a dribble. I won't watch a single dribble. I barely checked the score yesterday to see who won the OKC series.
Yeah.
Not interested.
I walked in, my dad was watching the TV. I said, oh, no, I got to go.
He had the basketball on.
He had the Nuggets, Denver Nuggets and OKC on.
I didn't look at it. I had no
messed my stomach up.
It's going to be two good series. I understand it may not be a sexy series, but two good teams.
But it messed
or four good teams.
Good luck with the ratings, NBA.
But this is what the NBA wants. This is two.
Careful what you ask for. Careful
First time in league history, they are guaranteed to have a seventh different champion in 7 years.
This is what they want.
And the Pacers.
No, that's gross. That's gross.
All we had to do was perform.
That's it.
That's it. All you had to do.
Boston's got a legitimate excuse. I mean,
yeah, right.
They dug themselves a hole. But when you lose your best player, like if we're losing Donovan Mitchell after Game 5, we're not going anywhere either.
And shame on us. Everybody thought, McNuggets. Everybody thought, man, there was an inkling. You're like, wow, if this is the year. Tatum's injured.
Yeah.
We played terrific in the regular season against the Knicks.
Windows are crazy, man. You never know.
Man, shout out to the Oklahoma City Thunder that had Harden, Westbrook, and Durant and never sniffed a ring.
They're going to get it this year. They're my pick to win it. We'll talk about the things that these four teams have in common. What do they have that the Cavs don't, other than more victories?
Toughness.
But we got to start with the Reds and the Guardians. This is always a big series because it's the Ohio Cup, and the Guardians have owned the Ohio Cup during Tito's tenure. They won it last year, too. Tito was not in baseball. Now that Tito's back in Cincinnati, it looks like they're going to reclaim the Ohio's Cup for the first time in I think maybe 10 years, something like that. Anyhow, this weekend could not have been a bigger debacle for the Guardians. Not just did they lose 3 in a row, but it was to their in-state rival, and it was to Tito Franco. Don't mistake it.
And Will Benson.
And, Will Benson and Tito must have got together and said, "You ready to do this?" And Tito looked at Will and said, "I don't bat.
Look at his numbers this
You
series.
bat." So, and I think all 4 of them were curveballs. I'd have to have someone confirm that to me, but I'm pretty sure all 4 were curveballs. Here's the crazy thing about Will Benson, who homered in each of the 3 games and was basically the difference in the series. Will Benson was, of course, a member of the Cleveland Guardians, Indians. I'm not sure if he ever was with the Guardians.
First round pick in 16.
Guardians. He was. He was in the organization, and they gave up on him. They traded him. What I find entirely ironic is this is the position that the Guardians have never been able to figure out since Manny Ramirez. You can go around the diamond, and they've had a number of stars at just about every position. I mean, Hosey at third has locked it down. But they've had great players at every position. But right field, they can't figure out. Here's how bad it was. Will Benson hits 3 home runs in the series, is the difference in the series, while the 3 Guardians right fielders, I don't even know how this happens. Big Christmas is hitting 150.
Yep.
So he looks like a fraud. All that postseason excitement last year, teams figured out, okay, don't throw the ball here against him because he'll lose it. And when they don't, he can't hit. 150.
Worst at bats I've ever seen.
Terrible. Nolan Jones, who was a good prospect, we traded him away. He had a great year with Colorado. We bring him back. He's hitting 181.
Yes.
And Will Brennan, now granted, it's limited at bats because he's only been up a short time.
Right.
He's hitting 0-0-0, 0 for 9. So you've got a 150, a 181, and a 0.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Benson had more home runs that series than the entire right field position has hit for the Guardians this season.
Yes.
Jones has 2, Noel has 1.
That's it.
And Benson at 4 in the 3 games.
It's unbelievable. It's something's got to change.
Do you think it might be a Cleveland curse? Because you mentioned Nolan Jones, right?
Might be the curse of Manny Ramirez.
Nolan Jones was here.
Yeah.
Not productive in his time here. That's why Cleveland trades him to Colorado. Has a great season in Colorado. Last year, not nearly as good as it was in 23.
Right.
But comes back and is hitting 181 with a sub-6 OPS.
Yeah.
Will Benson here did not live up to the expectations. Nope. Goes to Cincinnati and has been up and down, but very good in this series.
He's had moments.
At some point, it's just that position in Cleveland since Manny.
Or
they've
maybe
not been able to solve the code.
They have great. We give them credit for developing pitchers. But where are these developing hitters at? Like, it's just like
it's not just right field for that.
It's a power. I mean, that's where your power is coming from, the corners.
You need it,
and they can't find it. And even the guys that hit well in other places come back here, and you look around, you're like, wow, listen, you guys are struggling. You know, I was watching Bull this morning, and Zach Meisel, and they was just talking about how the lineup is just struggling. Talking about like, listen, like. Can you imagine if you did have Josh Naylor and you at least if Josh Naylor was back here, he'd probably be the 4 or 5 hitter right now.
Yeah,
not probably. He 100%.
Here's what I don't understand about the lineup. Hosey gets hot, you put him back in the 2-hole. What the hell are they doing? What are they doing?
I don't know.
This experiment might be one of the dumbest things I've seen.
It's your biggest gripe all season.
It is.
Well,
he started before the season.
Mikey, it did start before the season because they threw out a whisper. We might check him out in the 2-hole.
Yeah.
Okay, put your best hitter in the 2-hole. Leave him there all year. You miss the playoffs. Camp Hosey at number 2. They're not making the playoffs. They're just not. Here's why. Who else in the lineup fears you?
Nobody.
When you're done with the 3-hitter, you can exhale.
They have a ton of easy outs down the bottom lineup. I mean, you look at some of these numbers as a team, and I looked this up, and I am not
bad lineup.
Analytics in baseball. I know it plays a role. I don't know these like the ins and outs. So Jay, please tell me how bad some of these are. Okay. So I'm going to give you a number and a rank. You tell me good or bad. Batting average. Everyone understands batting average. They rank 23rd in baseball, 233. 23rd, not good enough.
233 is their team average.
They're 22nd in Major League Baseball in OPS with a team OPS of 686. They are 23rd in extra base hits as a team. They have a 6.8 extra extra base hit percentage, 23rd in baseball. Their barrel rate, 7.2, Jay, that's 25th in baseball.
That's not good.
They have an average exit velo as a team of 88.5. That's 28th
Terrible.
in baseball.
That's terrible.
And they have a hard hit rate of 36.6. That is dead last in Major
awful.
League
So
Baseball.
they're hitting dribblers everywhere.
If you don't
what's
hit the ball
funny
hard,
is 2 years ago they made the pivot from let's not swing and miss.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yep. Let's
To all right, let's swing from
Contact.
the hips. Now, if
Vallejo's
your home
gone.
run numbers went up, that's a trade-off.
They're 13th in home runs for what?
Yeah, but that's not good enough. You've got to lead the league in home runs to suck that bad. When those numbers right there, those numbers are going to, they're not a playoff team. They're not. They're just not a playoff team. Now, as constituted, Bieber sounds like maybe July. Okay.
Crazy. It sounds he's on a fast track to come
I
back.
know he is. That, which doesn't surprise me about him. That could change everything. Right now, who's their ace?
They don't have one.
No, they don't have an ace. These are all big ifs, I know, but if DeLauder is healthy and he can go through the minor leagues with some success, okay, that's another stick. And another one's David Fry. David Fry is not far away. So it's possible that they can turn this thing around, but now the division looks like I thought it would look at the beginning of the season.
I said fourth. I said I had them.
And here they are.
Hanging
They're
around
just
there
barely
at the bottom.
in third place.
I mean, they're also
Percentage
half a
points.
game out of second place, though.
I
Like,
mean, that
No,
just-
I know, but here's the thing. Detroit is not showing any signs of slowing down.
best record in baseball.
Minnesota has caught fire. Now, is Minnesota as good as they've played the last 2 weeks? No. They're not nearly as bad as they played
Correct.
the first month. So here's the question with Minnesota. Are they closer to the team we saw in April or the team we've seen for the last 2 months or 2 weeks?
We're going to find out next 3 games.
We
At
are
least
gonna
a little
find out.
sample size.
We are going
not
to
a
find out. And I got to
definitive
tell you, I
answer.
don't think it's going to go well. And I think that this next stretch is brutal, and it could be, you hate to say lights out in May, but don't fall behind Detroit by double digits by June 1st. If you're double digits behind Detroit, this isn't a team that you're going to be able to get on your horse and go chase.
Because for once they don't have bona fide pitching to a point where you can say, hey, we can win with 3 runs. We can catch hot and win a bunch of games in a row.
Yeah, no.
When you got Lively, Gavin Williams hasn't been the ace. We've been hearing about him 2 years. Bybee, he's actually pitching so.
No one's been good start to finish. Everybody has looked good at times, but also everybody has looked really bad at times.
And Ben Lively's apparently going to see a doctor who specializes in Tommy John, which isn't great.
Not a good sign.
Not great. For the Guardians to hit the way they're hitting, to win at the level that we need them to win at to make the playoffs, they have to have maybe not elite pitching, but they have to have high-end starting pitching. And right now the starting pitching has been average at best top to bottom. And it was good to see Slade Ciccone, the guy they got back in the Naylor trade,
Actually,
pitched pretty well on Saturday.
pitched
He had
very well. Pitched well enough to win.
A shutout going to the 5th inning, 8 strikeouts, no walks. He gave up the 3 runs in the 5th, but that was at least an encouraging sign because he's a young pitcher that has his ups and downs in Arizona. He was the piece they got back for Josh Naylor, former first-round pick, that you hope would get into this Guardians pitching rotation and into this pitching system, that they get the best out of guys and can turn into a top end of the rotation kind of arm. But between Gavin Williams, who's been up and down to the extreme, really
Gavin
good.
Williams can't get through
really
5
down.
innings without hitting 100 pitches.
Bybee was not good again on
Ortiz did that
Friday.
yesterday. 5 innings, 100 pitches.
They're inconsistent. None of these guys you feel confident going into any given start that you're going to get an ace level or top end of the rotation kind of start because they all have the capability to do so, but it's so frequently or it's not consistent enough that you feel confident knowing what you're getting on a game-by-game, start-by-start basis from them.
And when the offense is performing like
They
this,
have to be consistent. They have to be
You've
good.
got to. I mean, here's the old adage, and it's always true. You got to score to win.
Yeah.
And these pitchers aren't good enough to pitch shutouts.
What is it?
So I don't know what's going to happen with this club, but it's going in the wrong direction, and I blame the front office. They did nothing in the offseason.
Can you guys educate me on what
SJ,
their
don't look at me.
approach is? What is their organizational approach about like the offense? Like I know what they love to do pitching wise. It just seems like they just put guys out there and hope for the best at the plate.
That's their plan. Let's hope that Rocchio can hit in April like he hit in October. Well, hope's not a plan. He's down to the minors. Let's hope that Gabe Arias, who at times, by the way, has looked like he's turned a corner, but at other times his at-bats are just They hurt my eyes to watch him at times. At least he's got 4 home runs. Look, I would put him in the success category. Rocchio's obviously in the fail category.
Schneeman's been this season in the success.
Yeah, you've got to get a right fielder.
Yeah.
Here's what really boggles my mind. When Frankie Lindor was, I think it was after he was gone, but the tone was, remember when the owner said, enjoy him while you got him, and that didn't go over well. But I think that when the owner said, and management said, we're going to spend the money that we would have spent to keep Frankie. They have not done that. That was a flat lie. They haven't done it. Look at where payroll has been, and look at where it is now. It's gone down. It's gone down. It's gone down. It's an insult to the fans. They did next to nothing this offseason.
0.
And, you traded Josh Naylor. Okay.
And Jimenez.
Well, where are the bats to replace these guys? Where are they? What did you do? Who did you bring into this team that was going to make a discernible difference? They won the Central last year. They look like a team that was going in the right direction, but I'm afraid what we're looking at now is a year where they miss the playoffs, unless these guys that I'm talking about that are in the wings come in and make major contributions. Outside of Hosey and Manzo, I'm not afraid of anybody in this lineup. I said this before. I'd put Martinez in the 2-hole. Mm-hmm. I would put Hosey in the 3-hole, and then I would put Manzo in the 4. When you go Kwan, Martinez, Ramirez, and Manzardo, that's a legitimate top 4 of the lineup.
And you got some speed up there. And you're
going to steal some bases. You're going to run well. Hosey is a smart base runner. Putting Hosey in the 2-hole, I would love to be in the room when they're having these conversations about, we can get him 30 more at-bats a season.
When no ducks on the
That
pond.
is laughable. Okay. He's got the 8, 9, and 1 hitters hitting before him. Don't get me started.
I talked to Bo this morning because he did the Ultimate Guardian show. If you missed it, him and Zach, check it out. But one thing Bo mentioned, I'm curious what you think of this, Jay. Bo said if he was running the Guardians today, he'd just cut whatever the terminology is, Carlos Santana.
That's one.
And call up CJ Kayfus from AAA. Yeah. Because you have Lane Thomas coming up soon. You bring Thomas up. With Kayfus up, he plays first base, can play the corner outfield. He had another really good series in Columbus. Since he got called to AAA, he's got 3 home runs. He has an OPS over 1,000. He's like 1.086 or something like that. And Bo basically said he understood the move of Santana when they made it.
See, he was
coming off a good season.
He was, but
he's
Father Time is undefeated.
And Bo says, listen, now, for whatever reason, 1 year to the next, his bat speed's down. His on-base percentage is still good because he draws walks, but because he's a 39-year-old former catcher, first baseman, he's slow as can be, so you need 2 hits to get him over anyway.
Put him on base. Yeah.
Teams aren't afraid to put him on base. If he takes a walk, they're not afraid. And he says you just have to hope that Kayfus, who's hitting every level of the minors, can continue at the major, which is a big if, fully granted. But he goes, I'm over the Santana experience. I'd like to see Kayfus up. And you have to hope that when Thomas is back, and if you switch Kayfus in for Santana, and David Fry comes back, then you have at least not 2, 3 guys in the lineup you're afraid of, but 4.5, 5, and then you deal with the rest. What do you think about that?
I don't hate any of that. I really don't. I do think that it's the right move to make to give up on Santana. The reason it won't happen is because front offices are always the last to admit it out loud. They know it. They're watching the same thing we're watching. They're seeing his diminished bat speed. They're seeing he's not turning on balls that he used to just absolutely crush.
He's missing some meatballs.
He's missing some very hittable pitches.
There are some guys that you remember, how did that pitch not turn into something better than a slow grounder to second?
Yeah.
I feel like every time I go back in my head, it's like 7 to 10 or Santana right now.
Got their slider bat speed.
Yeah, and that's not good at the major league level. And so I understand that move, and I would do it too. I just don't think they're going to because, again, that would be saying, well, once again, we took a swing in the offseason and we missed it.
How many guys, going back to the start of this show, where they signed someone in the offseason that came to Cleveland didn't pan out?
All of them.
Zanino, Bell, Santana.
Those were their 2. Last year they didn't really go after any because they swung and missed on Zanino and Bell.
0 for 3 on free agent.
I would say during the course of this show over the last 3 years, when they have spent money, it's been a debacle. Now,
Born and Swisher wasn't that good. Is that the same?
I don't want to go back forever because I wasn't here. I was
that goes
guys
back,
that I
and
could
that goes back a long time. But I mean, I don't know where this Encarnacion was great. They brought him in, and he did what we had hoped and expected him to do. I just think that I'm telling you, I know it sounds like it's hyperbole because it's late May. It's May 19th. This next 10 days is critical. You better at least split these next 10 games because if you don't, you're losing ground on everybody in the division because everybody's playing good baseball right now.
Yep.
And then you are diminished to hope. I hope Fry comes back and he's the same guy. I hope Thomas comes back and he's the same guy. I hope Bieber can get back on the hill. And you know what I'm afraid of? I don't know that it's worth the risk to rush Bieber back.
Right.
If you're 10 games out of first
10,
place.
12 game, why would you come back?
Why would you do that?
Did he sign a 1 year? Is he a free agent after this year?
He's got an option after 1 year.
So you could talk to him and in theory say, hey, Shane, no need to rush. We need you more for next year, this season, maybe.
Yes,
a lost
but in his
cause.
mind, he knows that if he comes back in July
and pitches well,
and is 7-1, that he exercises the option and he hits free agency and gets paid.
Yeah.
And so that I would imagine that's why he's racing to get back on the mound.
Yeah.
But if I'm the Guardians and I'm looking up at 3 teams and there's double digits between me and the first place team, he can't pitch every day.
Well, you mentioned the next 10 days, right? It's Detroit, not in this order. It's Minnesota, Detroit, L.A., and then L.A. again, but the Angels clearly not in the same class as the Dodgers. So
the next 3, that's a gauntlet.
That is a gauntlet. And when you look at the overall records, and the question on the lower third was time to panic. I don't think it's time to panic yet per se. It's still too early in the season.
Yeah.
They're over 500. They have the 12th best record in baseball and the 20th best run differential. They are 4 games over 500 with a minus 20 run differential. We've said it a couple times, and it becomes more and more of a talking point the deeper we get into the season. Run differential is not the end-all, be-all stat. Jay, it's like plus minus. It tells a bit of the story.
It's important.
It doesn't tell the whole story, but you could look at.
Well, they had a couple games where they were blown off the field.
Exactly. So
when you have catchers
it's not
pitching,
perfect, but you look at the teams with the best run differentials, the best records in baseball. The Guardians are the outlier. The Guardians are the team plus 500
100%
in the red, and
that rarely happens.
you could win that way. It's just incredibly hard, and so many things have to break in a certain manner for you to sustain winning at that level.
Yes.
That over the course of a 162-game season, more often than not saying it's impossible, I'm just saying more often than not, that kind of catches up with you.
It does.
And it feels like right now we're at a teetering point of when those things that haven't gone in Cleveland's favor and some of the wins that they've been able to pull out that they probably shouldn't have. These next 10 games are going to be a good litmus test for, hey, are you better than that minus 20 run differential, or is that the team you guys actually are?
At what point in time do you say, okay, we're not good enough to compete like we want to? I want to see some of these kids. I want to see DeLauder. I want to see Bazzana. I want to see all the young, all the guys that we hear about every single year, but they get stuck in the minor. Can we just see? Because if I can get some guys, and they may struggle this year, kind of like the Browns, you may struggle, but it may be a mini reset where you can at least see some of the dudes and get them some experience, and then they might be able to start in the major leagues next year.
It's way too early for that now, though.
I know.
Way too early
You're not
for
doing
that
that now.
Yeah.
But
and you're not panicking now, and that is a panic move. I don't even think that's not even a panic move. That's a surrender move. That's like, okay, let's see what we have.
Well, we're going to see in these next 10.
I associate Gentleman's Punt with one team in town. And it's not the Guardians.
See, right? Look,
it's the Browns.
Like they usually don't. They will play veterans until they are done.
They will.
Like you can struggle, but they're not going to just reset and say, no, we're waving a white flag.
Now, I will say this. I said earlier that I don't think management is ready to say, okay, Carlos was a mistake and we're going to move on. But if he still looks like this at the All-Star break,
You have to make the move.
you got to do it.
Yeah.
You've got to just pull the trigger, and say, particularly if there's a huge gap between them and Detroit. Once that lead gets sizable, and I think it is going to grow, once it gets sizable, then I think you have to have a plan on salvaging the back end of the season, and the way you salvage it is see what you've got. Even if that means bringing up Bazzana for a look, even if that means bringing up some of these other guys, DeLauder I want to see in a big league uniform. remember too, and I know that some guys tear up all levels of it. Manzardo's a perfect example of this. Tear up all levels of hitting. He came up last year. He was a fail.
You got to get the reps in, yeah.
And he went back. And sometimes when the guys get the taste of the big league life, and then they have to go back, they don't like going back.
Yeah.
And sometimes it lights a fire. It sparks something inside them, and then they're up for good. Manzardo, I think, is up for good. The one thing that Manzardo, and I hate even bringing this up because he's got double-digit home runs and he's a power source, so you expect a lower average. But he's got to hit higher than he's hitting right now.
And it's funny
because he has to.
In the minors, Jason Lloyd told us, and not just Jason, but he's the one that brought this to my attention. He was a high-average, lower power guy. It's actually flipped. He's the weird
we'll take that.
Back and forth.
Well, I think what's happened is either his agent or someone, or he's just noticed this on his own. Bull talks about this all the time. Stephen Kwan is, I think, a guy who is a 4.5-tool player, close to becoming a 5-tool player. When he hits the market, if that home run number isn't substantially higher, he's going to get paid
Good point.
under what I think his true value is, because he's a two-way player. He is a Gold Glove winner, multiple Gold Glove winner. He runs the bases very well. He hits for average. He's got to start hitting for more power. And Manzardo said, you know what? If I have to lose 50 or 60 points on my average to hit home runs, that's what's going to build the big house, and that's what's going to make it so I have dynasty money. So no matter what happens after my next contract, I'm going to be good forever. But all that said, I know it sounds doom and gloom. Right now it looks doom and gloom. They're coming off that stretch where they looked terrible the last really 4 days. But if they somehow can salvage these next 10 and just go 500, then I think
we'll feel a lot better about where they're at.
Yeah, because we're closer to getting some of those pieces back. But if they go 2-8 and all of a sudden they're 9 games out, I don't know where that goes from here. A double-digit lead is really hard to erase once you get into June, and even more rare once you get into July. But it's still early. They can still turn this around. They better start hitting, and they better put Hosey back in the 3-hole, because Hosey in the 2-hole it's a nightmare. It's a nightmare. I don't see it happening.
All right, guys, you ready to move on to some Browns and go more doom and gloom?
Let's do it.
Or some optimistic
No, I'm optimistic
season.
about this next topic.
Yeah,
Before we get to that,
this is a happy topic, Ant.
This is a happy topic, but before we get to our happy topic, say goodbye to sticky notes, guys. Scribbles plans on the refrigerator and overlapping calendar invites. The Skylight calendar is here to bring clarity to the chaos and help families stay organized without the stress. This sleek digital display syncs with your existing calendars, Google, Apple, Outlook, and more. Make it simple to track appointments, practice dinners, and reminders all in one easy-to-see place. You can even assign everybody in the household their own color so you can finally see who does what and end all the confusion in your house. Right now, Skylight is offering our listeners $30 for their 15-inch calendar displays if you go to skylightcal.com/NFL. If you go to skylightcal.com/NFL, you get $30 off your first 15-inch calendar. That's skylightcal.com/NFL.
All right, we've got a tight end that is in the pipeline for the Cleveland Browns that could make it really interesting this year in his rookie season. And I know everybody's got, whoa, we've got David Njoku. Well, what do you have in David Njoku? We'll get to that in the base of this topic. But Harold Fannin is a guy who, despite the fact that he played at Bowling Green, and that's not a power school, he rewrote the tight end record book.
Yep.
And 2 of his most impressive games came against Penn State and Texas A&M in back-to-back weeks on the road. And he had Bowling Green in position to beat Penn State in the fourth quarter. Penn State mounted a comeback. This is a team that made it, to the Final Four in college football? And their defense, which was a very good defense, had no answer for Harold Fannin Jr. Is it acceptable to have legitimate, hopeful vibes around Fannin this year, or is that just short-sighted because of where he played and because of who's in front of him?
I think he's. I'm super excited for him to have pay dividends this year. You take a look at what Stefanski wants to do, and he was a guy. He's always been a guy that has 2-3 tight ends, right? And I look back to the days of Gronk and Aaron Hernandez and the way they kind of positioned themselves. Now, don't get it twisted.
No, someone's going to say G. Bush just put Harold Fannin and David Njoku in the same sentence.
Boy, I'm just trying to make a comparison of the scheme. They're not the same players, but when you have two guys like that, and it all depends on how well you're willing to block. David Njoku has made himself a better blocker, but the two tight end set is brilliant because it gives you an opportunity to run and pass out of those sets. And it gives you some unpredictability when it comes to your play calls and the play sheet, because you can't just sit there and say, oh, well, they're going to run the ball. No, they're going to have guys that can run, that can block. You can run, and you got two tight ends. You got the numbers in the box in terms of, hey, do you want base packages in there? And you're going to use 3 or 4 linebackers and big safeties, knowing good and well that Harold Fannin and David Njoku can be dynamic pass catchers. I just like the fact that he's younger. I think David Njoku, if you ask him, if you got him on, I think David Njoku will tell you he had a down year last year. Mm-hmm. I thought David Njoku looked a little slower. I thought he put on a little weight. I thought he didn't catch the ball as well. If you go back and look at the tape that he had with Joe Flacco at the end of the 2 years ago, it looked night and day from what he was doing in this offense under Ken Dorsey. So for me, I think Harold Fannin Jr. is going to greatly push David Njoku, because I think that Harold Fannin Jr. is a more natural route runner coming out of college than Njoku. 100%. He was a much better catcher with his hands, and I just think Kevin Stefanski is going to have fun using him in different matchups.
Gee, you took some of the stuff I wanted to say, so I'm going to go big picture and bring it back. First off, competition is good for everybody. I think Harold Fannin being in the tight end room is going to bring out the best in David Njoku. And the Browns drafted one receiver of any kind in this draft, and it was Harold Fannin Jr. And we all looked at that wide receiver room and said, this is by no means a done deal, a set unit that you'd feel confident in. And the Browns said, we're okay passing on receivers. We'll sign some veteran free agents, but we like Harold Fannin enough that is our receiving weapon. Harold Fannin rewrote the record book at Bowling Green this season. Most receptions, 115 for a tight end ever. 1,555 yards, most receiving yards for a tight end in college football history. He averaged 9 receptions a game and 117 yards per game, both FBS tight end records. Against Penn State and Texas A&M, the games Jay alluded to, about 9.5 catches, 140 yards, and 2 touchdowns. That's 140 yards per game, by the way. 9 catches per game and a touchdown per game. He had 1 in each of those games. He was incredible against the better competition. And, G, the point you made that I think is the biggest reason why I think it's legitimately acceptable and should happen in terms of having expectations for Harold Fannin this season is Stefanski wants to get back to the offense he's most comfortable running, right? The 2 tight end sets. And when they go out in the huddle, if you have 2 tight ends in Fannin, Njoku, and 2 receivers, we'll just say Tillman and Judy for the sake of this, maybe it's Deontay Johnson. Defensive coordinator has to make a decision. We send it in the dime package. You don't know if that's going to be a running play. That puts the defense on its heels and lets the offense, Kevin Stefanski, whoever's at quarterback, dictate what's going to happen. And if the Browns felt comfortable and feel comfortable that Harold Fannin, Njoku, and any 2 of their receivers is just as effective in the passing game as just Njoku and 3 receivers, so if they feel Johnson Fannin, Tillman Fannin, whatever you want to say, is basically a wash in terms of being a weapon in the passing game, why wouldn't they run that 2 tight end, 2 receiver personnel significantly more frequently than 3-by-1? I think it's a perfect fit. He brings a completely different play style than David Njoku. And once again, this is a kid that is still learning how to play the position. He was a linebacker in college, in high school, if I'm correct, G. At Canton McKinley.
He was also he played
safety on the defensive side of the football, made the transition to offense. Give him a little more seasoning, and this dude has a chance to be special in the NFL, Jay. I can't wait to see what he does with the Browns.
He's an athlete. I don't care who's – you can tell by the way a guy moves.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a big-time player. And sometimes big-time players come from the Mid-American Conference. Ben Roethlisberger was doubted by some. He had a pretty nice transition and won some Super Bowls.
Jason Taylor?
Yes. What I most like about it is – so this could go one of 2 ways. And the more I think about it, this is what I think they are going to do because I think it's the right thing. I think Joe Flacco should be the starting quarterback of this team. I do. And I do think that at some point you're going to have Shedeur Sanders probably get to start, and you're probably going to get Daniel starting as well. What I want to see is Joe Flacco and Kevin Stefanski teaming up with two legitimate tight end threats. Njoku has had his best games as a Cleveland Brown with Joe Flacco. Sadly, it was just too short of a time frame. They played 5 regular season games together. I want to see what Joe can do with those two guys in the offense. Somebody's got to catch passes.
Yeah.
Who on this offense is built to catch passes?
Right.
I mean, you got Judy, but outside of that, you got a whole lot of question marks.
Yep.
I don't think this kid is a question mark. I know he is at the NFL level because he hasn't done it yet. But he did it last year at an elite level against Penn State and A&M. And in those games, he looked every bit as good as a Big Ten tight end. I would have loved to have seen him in Ohio State's offense. I really would have. Yeah. I would have loved to have seen what he could have done, what he could have been. I think to get the true best out of Harold Fannin, you have to have a quarterback that knows this offense and that also knows how to get the ball to receivers. And I'm not saying that the rookies don't, but in my view, Joe Flacco gives him the best runway for immediate success in the NFL.
Yeah, it's kind of, and what I like what Bowling Green did, first of all, shout out to them. A lot of MAC teams don't do this. I like what you did. You realized that you had a stud and you spammed him.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you can't be, when you find out they can't do nothing with you against Texas A&M or Penn State on the road, oh, well, no one in the MAC is going to be able to do anything. We're going to throw you the ball every opportunity. And I love the fact that you saw him on some jet sweeps. We used to laugh and say, listen, if Stefanski ever gets a tight end that he can give a sweep to, he's going to just put that in his playbook. Because that is his move. They put him I think you're going to see him at fullback a little bit. I think you'll see him blocking as a fullback and creeping out. Spider 2Y banana, what is it?
Yeah.
Shout out to
favorite play call.
Said that Gruden's favorite. Listen, if you get that fullback out there, he's open every time. And just the fact that when you come out in that, and I think one of the things, even if you see some of the rookies, right? If you are playing some of the rookies, one of the things that people talk about is Shedeur Sanders taking a lot of sacks, right? Mm-hmm. When you have a 2 tight end set and you're playing a lot of that stuff and you're using play action, that is a young quarterback's best friend. Because it slows the pass rush completely down. Yep. You can't be running upfield. We might be running inside zone.
But the fear is you better have wide receivers that can get separation.
Yes, and the thing is, we don't have that.
And can Dylan Gabriel or Shedeur Sanders, in your view, can either of those guys get him the ball on a regular basis as they're trying to learn the curve of the NFL? That's what worries me.
It's an unanswerable question.
It's tough because they're doing 2 things, right? Flacco, I like how with a veteran comes in and he sees something and they kind of click.
Yeah.
And you know they ain't practiced that much, but it's just something in that player that, ooh, okay, I like that. I trust him. I was going back and I watched Flacco, and I'm like, what made him special during that little run is that he would trust David Njoku with receivers.
And Cooper.
And Cooper.
And those two.
There would be guys all over him, and he would trust them and say, I trust you're going to go make that play. It's sometimes tough for a rookie to let it go when you got dudes all over you, right? So, look, I like Fannin with a veteran better.
We don't know if Shedeur or Dylan Gabriel's comfortable going under center, turning their back to the defense, running play action. We just haven't seen it. They certainly may be able to. We just haven't seen it yet. We know Joe Flacco likes to do that. He did it here in 2023.
And we know that Kevin Stefanski
likes that, and it's a lot easier to sell that when you have 2 tight ends on the field, which you could see a lot of them in Njoku and Fannin. But when you look at the overall passing game for the Cleveland Browns, and we talked about this real quick on an Ultimate Brown stream, or one of the streams we did. Remember the scene in Anchorman? Jay, you've seen the movie Anchorman, right?
Many times.
Where they all show up to the station-wide fight and they all have different weapons.
Right.
Yeah. Like someone brought a trident.
Yeah. When the Browns show up to a
brick.
Where did he get a grenade?
It's a great movie. But like when they show up to those fights, right? And the Browns in this scenario or whatever station, they show up to these fights in the passing game and the weapons they have.
No one's scared.
Justin Jefferson's like the trident. And Jamar Chase is the grenade. And there's a bazooka out there that's Tyreek Hill in his peak, or whoever you want to say. Jerry Jeudy's like a switchblade. Yeah. Like dangerous, but I'm not sure he's a single-handed weapon of mass destruction.
Yeah, but he got to cut you 5-6 times before you bleed out.
Yeah.
Like, he's not no deep threat.
Yeah,
like
the bazooka,
Yeah.
one and done.
Yeah, Cedric Tillman's like a finely sharpened pencil.
Or a dull pencil.
Well, we don't know, but I'm giving him Deontay Johnson is what's Deontay Johnson? Like they don't have a lot of weapons. Harold Fannin could be a weapon.
He could.
Like Harold Fannin at the end of the season might be their second weapon they're bringing to a passing game.
And maybe
fight,
he's like a Swiss Army knife.
And that's and
where,
Steve, play the highlights real quick. The other thing with Fannin, he has yak ability.
I know he does.
Like legitimate yak yards. I don't have the numbers, but just watching some of these highlights, going back, watching the A&M game, the Penn State game, he's not a tight end that just gets open and then gets taken down. It's a jet sweep for a dude that weighs 240 pounds. I understand it's against Akron and that's not the greatest competition in the world, but still, he's their best yak tight end today. Like that's not in David Njoku, as you mentioned. He's a create space, out physical you, box you out, make contested catches, but
and then gets tackled
he ain't chugging down the field in the way Harold Fannin is here. I mean, maybe it's just me being optimistic and overhyped at 11:45 on May 19th here, guys.
Oh, no.
I cannot wait to see what Harold Fannin does in this passing game.
Look
at this. This is Penn State, by the way. This is against Penn State, by the way.
In 2024, he had 873 yak yards.
Yeah.
So that's more than half of his yards.
Half his yards, yeah. Special talent.
I love to me, man, I don't know about y'all, man. I feel excited to see new blood. I'm getting a chance to see a young tight end that actually did something at the next level. Not like, hey, Sampson and Judkins. I'm like, man. Like,
we're doing that tomorrow.
I'm like, man, I'm excited to see what these guys have. I'm not gonna lie, man. I really like. As more I look at it, and the more I look about what they did, I think this class actually has the chance to actually be a home run for Andrew Berry. Because of just the names.
I mean, it's the kind of class that you hope, and obviously there's a lot of ifs. We don't know how all these guys are going to pan out. But you go back to the start of any dynasty. And I'm not saying this is going to lead to a dynasty, but there's like the 2-3 classes in a row where you get 3-4 starters in a row.
Right.
And your best players all...
Yeah, I'm looking for one in a row.
The Seahawks that one year in 2013 when they got Russell Wilson and Bobby Wagner.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And who was the guy that took 15th that everyone hated? Bruce Irvin.
Yeah, Bruce Irvin.
Like all those guys come from, and they got Cam Chancellor late into the draft, and they got Sherman in the 4th round. You don't know until 3-4 years down the road how Mason Graham and Carson Schlesinger and all these guys are going to pan out. But it's May 19th. It's 11:47 a.m. now. We're talking ourselves into some of these guys becoming very good football players for the Cleveland Browns.
Their last 5 picks are guys that touch the football.
Yeah.
I was surprised by that because their first 2 guys were defensive guys. And I understand that they're trying to build something special on defense, but their best player plays defense. Mm-hmm. I just needed, for this class to really excite me, I needed more offensive potential at the front end of the draft instead of the last 5 picks.
Now, if I will say this, if Shedeur Sanders is
that's the money one.
Is a ball player,
either of them.
They didn't.
He was projected to be a day 1 guy.
You get him at 5, all the rest of it, I won't remember nothing else. And by the way, can you put that list back up? And this is just my
future picks or all the draft picks?
All the draft picks that they took. Is it me? Or is it? I expect all of these dudes to be in the mix for something.
Graham's going to start.
Graham's a starter. Schlesinger's a starter.
Judkins
is a starter.
Fanning's playing.
One
of the 2 quarterbacks is either QB1 or QB2.
And
Sampson's getting carries.
I mean, I don't see nobody like everybody on. I don't see nobody on the list that be like, "Ooh." Do
you know why
these guys are in? He might get in trouble. He might get cut. He might be on practice squad. These guys, I expect all to either start, contribute, or have plans in 2025.
When you're coming into a 3-14,
I was going to say,
there's a lot more opportunity.
You better not be drafting guys at 3 and 14 who are going to be third on the depth chart.
Yes.
You better not be.
You need starters. You need difference makers.
Yes.
No Siaki Ika's up there.
No.
Oh my God.
All right, where we going next?
Guys, speaking of Browns and their expectations, we're going to talk a little bit about who's taking a big leap next season. But before we get to that, today's episode is brought to you by Epicor. Every team knows the value of hard work and of taking pride in what you build, in practicing with every detail to get the best results. But no player, no matter how amazing, can do it all alone. Working together makes getting the win easier. At Epicor, the all-stars are the hard-working manufacturers and distributors who create and deliver things we all need, from aerospace to electrical to medical devices. Epicor ERP solutions are created by industry experts to help make every day easier. You see your whole supply chain, manage logistics easier, and respond to pricing changes even easier. From small businesses with big dreams to growing enterprises with global vision, we'll equip you with the right tools to move forward, think ahead, and lead the way. Because as the clock ticks down, you need to make the most out of every hardworking minute. Easier doesn't cut corners, easier finds the lane. Discover your success at www.easierwithepicor.com. That's www.easierwithepicor.com.
All right, do we have Jason or no?
Jason is not here yet. No.
All right, we're supposed to go with Jason Lloyd, who is at the news conference over at the Cavaliers, listening to Koby Altman and his post-mortem end of the season news conference. He was late getting started. I think he was supposed to start at 11, and I know
11:20 he had just started talking.
Oh,
so.
11:20. So we're probably going to push him back. I would imagine into the second hour past noon. So I guess with that in mind, you want to stay with the Browns and do our topic we had after Jason?
Yep. So which players on the current roster do you guys think are going to make the biggest leap this year?
Yeah. Who do you guys have? Who's the guy that's going to make that leap? Whether it's from periphery to a regular player or a regular player to a star.
I thought long and hard about this one, and I think there's a lot of names that you could put into the category of at least contenders for the right answer here. But I ended up coming down to an answer I feel pretty good about. And that's MJ Emerson for a couple of different reasons. In 22 and 23, MJ showed a lot of promise. We were really excited about him. Is he one of the best cornerbacks under 25 in football? Is he going to replace Greg Newsome as the second boundary corner before Greg Newsome moved to the slot? We even had the discussion, could MJ Emerson be better than Denzel Ward, which in hindsight looks absolutely ridiculous that we ever had that conversation. I blame Earl for jumping on the MJ Emerson bandwagon too hard. But either way, 2024 was not a good season for MJ. We can all be honest and transparent here. He got attacked. All the advanced metrics, the PFF grades, the basic counting stats, all of it took a step back. When those confirm what your eyes see, it's pretty easy to come to the conclusion that teams had found a weakness in MJ's game. They found certain routes that worked better against MJ. They found certain types of receivers, shifty, faster guys that were able to get open against him. He got abused in the playoff game against Houston. So I say all of that to say MJ's stock is as low as it's been since he's come into the pros. And I fully expect in a contract year for a guy looking to break the bank for the first time in his career, with an entire season of tape now to study, hey, this is what teams found I don't do well. This is what I now have to clean up in my game. I think MJ's on track to not only get back to being the Browns' unquestioned second-best corner, but back into that top 30, 35 overall cornerbacks in football. I still like the size. I still like the technique. Tyvis has taught us a little bit about the one false step he likes to take on his initial step back and break back that I think can be coached out of him. And with the entirety of the Browns' defense, we saw it just take a gigantic decline from 24 as it compared to 2023. And I think a lot of that had to do with the quarterback situation, the offense just being completely inept. With an increase there, I expect the defense to get better, and a lot of that falls on the secondary, mainly MJ Emerson. So he's my easy answer to the most improved player, the guy that'll take the biggest jump for the Browns from 24 to 25.
Wow, easy answer.
I got somebody that wasn't even on their roster. I got somebody that they got in free agent, man. Let's get to Joe Tryon Shayanko. I'm going to tell you what, I like this move, former first-round pick out of Washington. He played for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Cleveland Browns brought him in. He's about 6'4", 6'5". He's built. If you say that, no one's really built like Myles Garrett, that is correct. But this dude is the JV built Myles Garrett. He's in the JV team. He's one of the dudes looking up to Myles Garrett like, yo, let's
That'd be okay.
And I say that's fine. The dude can get after the pass rusher. The problem is they had this dude playing in Tampa Bay out of position. They had him playing slightly like Tampa Bay plays this weird defense.
The Todd
Bowles defense be like, it'd be like stand up but not really in, but we want you to drop 35% of the time. He's not a dropper in the coverage. He's not used to playing space. He's a guy that was used to coming off the edge in Washington, former first-round pick. And for me, when you look at a guy like Alex Wright, who's coming off injury, Alex Wright, started off the year, he was playing pretty well. I think Joe Tryon-Shoyinka is a guy that could possibly get minutes out there. I like the fact that I like his size. I like his length. He's a more of a traditional defensive end. And he's a dude that has nice measurables. The problem with him was he couldn't get to the quarterback. Now you ain't got no problems with that. Think about this.
He'll be unleashed.
You got one-on-one. If you get Mike Hall Jr., Mason Graham, he better be fifth grade overall tackle. Listen, you are in the top 5, Mr. Graham. I need that work. I need to at least see 7 sacks from you as a top 5 guy. You've invested heavily in your defensive tackle room. You still got Myles Garrett. If you in the opposite end and you can't eat with them 3 dudes, I don't know. I might be able to come out there and trip off the line of scrimmage and roll into a quarterback that it was already running into my arms by Myles Garrett. I think he's going to have a nice little season. I think he's going to be a name people be like, where'd they get that guy from? I like him. I'm expecting him to make a jump, especially his production plan and this defense where all you got to do is run straight. Jim Schwartz is just say, get after the quarterback and get in his stance and take a track stance and get upfield.
JTS has a good season. Helps my pick, and MJ Emerson, too.
Right.
Better pass rush, helps the secondary. Jay, we went 2 defensive guys. Are you going offense?
Yeah, no, I went offense primarily because last year I thought the defense was bad. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that they were the problem. The offense was the bigger problem.
Yes.
There were guys on the offense last year that probably – we had starters on the offense that last year wouldn't have started for another team.
Yeah.
And you can't have that. We took Zach Zinter in, I believe, the 2nd round, if I'm not mistaken.
3rd round.
3rd round?
Yeah. He was on my list.
He came in with promise. He had the injury at the end of his career at Michigan. But, man, I watched this dude at Michigan.
He was on my list.
Dominate.
Yep.
It looked like he lost weight, too. It looked like he wasn't as big as – he looked like a mauler at Michigan. Prior to the broken leg.
You know what that can be? Everybody he was going against was a lot smaller than him. And when you come to the NFL, that's no longer the case. Now you're going against men.
Yeah.
And he looked like a man among boys at Michigan, and he looked like a boy among men last year.
Yeah.
And I know that, like, Joe Thomas defies what I'm about to say. When you come in at offensive line, it's a mental position. It's very mental. You've got to know what you're doing. You've got to know what your assignment is. You've got to know what your neighbor's assignment is.
Absolutely.
And you've got to know when to help. You've got to know when to slide. You know how difficult that is. He's a smart guy. He went to Michigan. I'm sure he can figure it out. But last year, he just looked overmatched. He looked overmatched physically. He looked overmatched mentally at times. And I don't expect that to continue. I think that this guy's a winner. He's proven that at Michigan. And I think he's probably embarrassed from the rookie season that he put out there. And it's just a hunch that I have because he can't play with the offensive line together can't play worse. And I think sometimes at that position, even though Joe came in and he hit the ground running and looked like he'd been there his whole life, Joe's the outlier. Sometimes there's a big learning curve at that position. And I think after a year under his belt, he's going to come back into this system a year older, a year wiser, a year stronger, I hope. And put together the kind of season that we thought he was going to have last year.
If the offensive line in general, if they can come back, this is my biggest question mark. How much of the offensive line last year issues was predicated on bad quarterback player holding the football, a terrible offensive line coach, and a horrible offensive scheme where you're dropping back, throwing the ball 50 times a game with guys that are
all of the above.
I was going to say, yeah.
But you know what I think it was? And I said this. I had the list of concerns coming into the regular season.
You were on it.
And I said, I'm telling you guys, you don't lose the guru of offensive line coaches.
Yeah.
And just make that good with another warm body.
Yeah, they don't want
that. And Callahan was and is just, he's that guy. And he's the kind of guy that individually makes everybody a little bit better, but with that unit more than any other unit in professional football,
it's a puzzle.
They're cohesive. Yep. They work together, and they didn't have it, and they all took a step back individually, and collectively they collapsed.
When a lot of people don't get this, when you talk about offensive line play and offensive line coordinator, and Callahan was the run coordinator, up front for the offensive line, there isn't no one specific way to block something. when they say let's go make adjustments, right? They'll go to the bench and they'll be practice something all week. They'll say we're going to double team the 3 technique to the middle linebacker. They'll change it. They'll say no. Don't double team him. Hey, we believe we can cut him off backside. So you take him, cut him off backside, and you climb immediately to the linebacker. They do these little things. It's almost like calling audibles. Like it's almost
on the fly
like
switches.
on the fly pick and roll. Like it's the pick and roll of basketball. There's 1,000 ways, McNuggets, you can block that up front. And it takes a seasoned coach and people who trust his offensive line to say, I know we've been blocking it, but guess what? We can't block it that way because that guy's coming. He's killing us right now. We got to stop the bleeding somewhere. And that type of thing is something you learn. It's an adjustment thing. And if you ain't got it, as an offensive line coach, there was sometimes I didn't know what they were doing. They were like, we're not even, they couldn't block the man in front of them so much that they just said, screw it. We're not even going to get to the linebacker. We just need to secure the first line first. And so you would see running backs get the ball and there would be a linebacker unblocked. And you're like, who?
Go back to the Giants game.
Who's that?
Was it week 3 when they played the Giants? Giants would end up with 7 sacks, if I remember correctly, and like 11 tackles for loss.
Yeah.
And it was the same. The Giants didn't run a ton of stunts. It was Dexter Lawrence beat who he was going against.
And you know what? Bill Callahan sees that twice and says, oh, no.
And makes some sort of adjustment. Yeah, it didn't work. The other guy I considered, Jay, along the same lines what you said, was DeJuan Jones. Because
I thought about DeJuan.
The leap didn't mean bad to good. It could be solid to great.
That's why I said that at the beginning. Yeah. It could be a regular starter to star. And I think DeJuan is the other guy that I really thought long and hard about.
I just couldn't say his name as confidently as I said MJ's, which is why I went with MJ, just because of the health factor. And it's going to be, until DeJuan plays 14, 15 games in a season, not even 17.
Yeah.
He's going to miss a game or two, but he's got to be healthy for more than half the season, which has been basically the barometer of his first 2 years. I liked a lot of what I saw from DeJuan at left tackle. Do I feel confident DeJuan will be able to stay healthy for the majority of a season? Until he proves me wrong, I can't say yes. I'm rooting for DeJuan. But I think the track record speaks for itself. But he's a guy that, if he can stay healthy, has the immense ceiling and potential you die for in a left tackle. And I hope we get a chance to see it this year. He was the other guy I considered.
The only reason I didn't is because of what you said, his track record with his health and his injuries. You know what? Maybe this is the year. I mean, it's tough for a guy, when a guy gets that label of always being hurt, it's tough to overcome that. Because in your mind, you start telling yourself, man, this hurts, but I'm not going to sit down because I don't want to be that guy. And what happens when you already play with the injury? Then you can injure it even further. So it's tough, man. Once you battle that label,
it's tough.
It's hard to shake it, man. You got to have like 3 or 4 seasons where you go all 17. And, oh, by the way, it makes you realize, and not that we didn't already, but it really makes you appreciate what Joe Thomas was able to do. Not just come in and play at an all-pro level from jump. The guy never missed a snap.
10,732 is the number?
Sounds
consecutive
right.
Snap. 10,000. I'll look it up. 10,000
consecutive snaps.
And think about this. We ain't even counting all the practices.
No.
Because
10,363.
Because
that's close.
You got to practice to even be in contention to play. So look how many. That just and if you want to know how tough football is on your body, Joe Thomas, who lost a bunch of weight, is in shape. His body fat is down. I mean, he's younger. How old am I? Hold on. Let's see. How old is Joe? I'm 43. What is Joe?
Joe is
40.
He's 40.
40.
I would say he's 40.
40 or turning 41.
40 with the hip replacement?
Yeah. That's
wild. That just shows you how much wear and tear your body takes on a consistent basis out there. And, that's why, it took a long time for, the offensive linemen and people to decide whether they would come back, like Joe Bitonio. Bitonio's like, listen, I don't know if I really want to do it. It's not the fact that it's the games. It's the practices and getting yourself in shape to be able to go out there and do that. So, it takes a lot. But I do think that the Cleveland Browns, I think their offensive line, how they play, is good enough or is pivotal enough that shifts them 3 games. If the offensive line play is bad and guys are injured, take 3 games away. I think if the offensive line is healthy. Guys are have cohesiveness. DeJuan Jones plays. Teller is healthy. Conklin stays healthy. I think that's good enough for 3 games.
And think with a rookie quarterback potentially playing, how much of a benefit it is to either Sanders or Dylan Gabriel to be dropping back and having guys up front in DeJuan, Bitonio, Teller, Pochich, Conklin, whoever else comes in, Zinter if he's filling in, that they can stand confidently in the pocket, survey the field, make the right read, as opposed to, and all rookie quarterbacks, the game moves fast, especially in the early parts when they first get on the field, to have the stability and the comfortability in the pocket, to go through the progressions and find the right open receiver, as opposed to rushing it through, potentially turning the ball over, which then leads everyone on Twitter and Kevin Stefanski to go, what the hell are we watching? This can't happen. So the offensive line could be the key to the entire offensive success of the Browns.
You're right, especially when you consider this fact. The game does speed up a lot, and at no position does it speed up more than quarterback.
Absolutely.
And as much as I want to see what Shedeur Sanders can do, if you were making a list of the things that scare you the most about him, it's that he holds on to the ball too long. So if the offensive line isn't zipped up and playing at an above average level and giving him time to sort of digest the new speed of the game, he could get knocked out before he ever gets a chance to see what he can do. There have been a lot of rookie quarterbacks whose careers were ruined because they were playing with awful offensive linemen. If you want to look, don't look any farther than Tim Couch. What they did to him should have been illegal.
Yeah.
And he's far from the only one in that category. There are a lot of quarterbacks on that list. I hope Shedeur Sanders isn't the next guy added, because the holding the ball for the extra tick in the NFL doesn't just get you hit, it gets you depleted. The ball tap that some people say is a timing mechanism or a tell on when you're going to throw the football, that means the ball is just in your hands a tenth of a second longer. And I don't like it. And that's why, to me, I thought, wow, we need 2 things on this football team. We need wide receivers and offensive linemen. And this draft did not address them. And that could end up being the fatal flaw of the Andrew Berry regime. You got to find what your weaknesses are, and you've got to fill them. And they didn't.
I think one of the things that they'll do, and this is why Kevin Stefanski is calling plays. There's different things you could do as a play caller to slow rushers down. There's different things you can do in terms of, all right, well, we got 2 tight ends. One of them is staying in the block. Okay, we got 2 running backs. We throw. One thing I missed a lot was Kevin Stefanski's screen game. Didn't see that a lot. Now, here's the thing. If Dorsey was still to play, if Ken Dorsey was still running his offense, I would have no faith in these rookies playing, because we were dropping back 50 times a game.
And teams knew it.
50. I'm like, this was the plan, to drop back with Deshaun Watson 50 times.
That proved not to be a good plan when you have a legitimate quarterback.
Right. I mean, if you drop back that many times, there's only a couple of things that can go right. There's hundreds that can go wrong. You can get a holding penalty. You could get sacked. You could throw the ball. It could get knocked down in the line of scrimmage. You could get picked off. You can, it takes so much for guys to be on the right page. And you know how good you got to be to throw the ball every play? Patrick Mahomes can't throw the ball every play.
No. Well, I mean, he had Josh Allen throwing more than he should have, and he was fired there for it, and now he's gone in Cleveland.
He can't do that. So I'm looking forward to it. I will say this, though. I do believe that the preseason games will be
must-see TV.
Must-see TV.
Oh, my God.
They're going to play.
Hey, it's must-see TV, because I'm sitting here with 3 preseason games. I mean, you might see Flacco. You might see Pickett. I don't know what they're doing.
I'd be shocked if we saw Flacco for a snap.
I would, too.
You're going to get Dylan Gabriel?
Literally 3 halves each.
When was the last time preseason was must-watch?
Never. I've never been excited about watching preseason.
Baker's first
But I'm watching this year.
This year,
with great interest.
This year, you're gonna, more than anything, even those scrimmages. Like, I wish I could watch the scrimmages.
Oh, the interschool, when you're scrimmaging
it's
with
sucks
Philly.
They're not here. They're both on the road.
I know.
Those scrimmages,
which is
man.
a surprise to me. Like, why would you send your team on the road?
Oh, I know.
Twice. I mean, I know the preseason games are on the road.
No. That's not why.
Why? Well, where are they going this year?
I forget the two teams, but
Philly.
instead of Philly and was it Minnesota the other one?
It is Minnesota.
I think it's Minnesota, but they're not going to the Greenbrier. Kevin said instead.
Well, I know why they're not.
Instead of going to the Greenbrier, we wanted to do 2 on the road joint practice sessions so we can get the simulation of us as a collective team being together in a city, emulating a road trip, basically. That we can't do without going to the Greenbrier.
I really think this is just me. The way I think about it, I think Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski is looking at it like this. We need to find out where along this spectrum these rookies is at.
Yeah.
And
you can do that against other teams.
And I want to stress test because they're not gonna if it's close, they gotta have the confidence to know that, hey, look, we're not gonna throw them out here and it looks bad. And then it's like, what is this? But if we can throw them out there and it's close between them and the veterans and we can kind of see a stress test in a controlled environment, they want to see if these guys got what it takes to throw out there quickly.
I was saying just
and
both
Joe
being
Thomas
on the
said
road.
it won't take us long to figure that out.
I was just saying both being on a road, not one home, one on the road.
Oh yeah, I like that too.
Yeah,
I like that.
And, to your point, add as many variables in as possible.
Yeah.
If you're trying to truly evaluate Shedeur versus Dillon and how close they are to Flacco and Pickett, put them in these situations that are uncomfortable. Make them perform under. I mean, it's practice, so it's a controlled environment.
A resort wasn't uncomfortable.
Yeah, that didn't.
I think the results have speak for themselves on that. Yes.
Exercises.
Go to a 5-star and hang out. For a couple weeks.
How do you take them to a Motel 8?
Hey, listen,
That's
Jay,
exactly right.
You've been to a couple of seminars in your day.
Yeah.
How those seminars in Myrtle Beach work out with the execs, huh? You gotta everybody waiting that 8 o'clock meeting with the PowerPoint the next day. You're like, oh my goodness, this was a rough one.
Well, most conventions go to Vegas,
right?
And it's not because it's a great learning environment,
right?
It's quite the opposite.
Yes, it is, man. They want to figure it out. Like, hey, go. Is it Philadelphia or they play?
It's Philadelphia and somebody else.
I think it's Philly and Minnesota.
Hey,
I'll double check.
what better way to have Philadelphia's receivers in their secondary jumping all your routes, all the routes that you thought that was going to be nice and cute and open? I love seeing that. Oh, you thought that?
It's Eagles and Panthers. Excuse me.
Oh, I like it.
And
like
they're going back-to-back weeks. Charlotte preseason week 1 in Charlotte, Philly preseason week 2 in Philly. So
yeah, which is why they're
weeks.
doing.
Yeah.
Which is why they're doing it. You might as well get the most out of it. You got to make the trip. You wouldn't spend a week in Philly and then hit the road from there and go to Detroit to play a preseason game, or even come home for that. You got to maximize your time there. And I don't know. We'll find out. We're going to find out some answers really quickly. Do we have Jason yet from Cavs or no?
So Jason is having a lot of connectivity issues right now. He's going to race home, and we're going to get him in about 12:45.
Oh.
All right, so let's get other two topics
So
in, and then we'll get
let's
Jason.
go to our next topic here, guys, about the NBA. And before we do that, let me get a quick read from FanDuel in here. NBA playoffs are still in full swing for the last 4 teams, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments, whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player. There's never been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live with player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays. Fans have never had more ways to play smart and win big. If you have a read on someone who's heating up, why not back it up with the same-game parlay? And if you're new to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com/UCSS and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook betting partner of the NBA.
Sweet. This topic was basic. I like the topic. I don't know that we're going to find common ground. I'm interested to see what you have to say, Mike. It's basically, so now that we know the teams that are in the conference finals, you got Indy and you've got the Knicks, and out west you've got Minneapolis. Interestingly enough, Minnesota made a huge trade with the Knicks in the offseason that worked out for both teams.
A rare win-win mega trade.
You don't usually see that. And you got OKC. Is there a common thread, Mike, with all of these? I don't think there is, but I'm curious to see what you say.
I don't think there's one necessarily undisputed, like, you have to do this. But I think these teams do and have shown something over the course of the playoffs that makes sense to why they're here. Right. First off, they're the 4 healthiest teams remaining in the playoffs.
Which is always big.
Injuries you cannot control. We have seen the Cavs do all the right things in the regular season. It didn't mean jack shit come playoff time because we saw Hunter get hurt, we saw Mobley get hurt, we saw Garland get hurt, we saw Mitchell run out of gas in an inexcusable fashion for the rest of the team to all run out of gas. It doesn't matter. The common trend, if you're looking at the most simplistic form, is they're the 4 healthiest teams right now. That's easy. The other 2 things I did notice was that depth is important. But it's not the kind of depth that we talked about all regular season. You heard
that we thought we had.
We heard Nikola Jokic after they lost Game 7 yesterday. He was asked in his post-game press conference by a reporter, hey, I know it's in the aftermath of the season. You're going to go back to Serbia, so I want to ask this now. It's above your pay grade. But what do you think this team needs to do in the offseason to get you back in a position to compete at the highest level? And he said, we need more guys. He said, we can't be playing 43 minutes a night and only have 6 guys that are willing to play. Or not willing to play, but 6 guys that can be counted on to play. And I thought, that makes perfect sense, right? You know, we always say it's play 8, trust 7. As it gets deeper, play 7, trust 6. Well, in the first round against the Clippers, they won 7. They also won 7 in the next round against OKC. OKC, a deeper team. The depth went out. I went and looked at the 4 teams in the conference finals and found that each team, at minimum, has 7 guys they feel like they can truly count on in the playoffs. I can read the names off if you want. I don't think we have to. You guys know the guys we're talking about. But at minimum, 7 guys. It's not the 10, 11 that play in the regular season. It's do you have 6 or 7 guys that in a playoff series you feel like you can trust?
In a playoff series.
In the regular season, be damned.
The list is different in the regular. We had all kinds of guys we trusted in the regular season. And those guys became extraordinarily awful in the playoffs.
So I went and counted for the Cavs. And I listed, and I can show you guys the names. We can read them off if you want. I went to the Cavs. I think there's 4 guys you can say for sure those are playoff guys. And the rest, including Jared Allen, is on the list of, I don't know.
Wow, I'm surprised you said that.
I don't know. It's 3 playoffs in a row where he hasn't been anything near what we need the level of play for Jared Allen to be at. So you need 6 or 7, really 7, 8. The Cavs have 4 and a couple of maybes.
Which is stunning because we thought we had 8 or 9.
Exactly. Regular season depth is not playoff depth. You need playoff depth. You don't know playoff depth till you get there, and that's the issue. Because we thought Ty Jerome and we thought Dean Wade and we thought Isaac Okoro may be able to contribute, and they didn't.
Nope.
So playoff depth, not regular season depth. And then in its most simplistic terms, of the 22 games in the conference semifinals, the team that made more threes won 17 of the 22. If you take the OKC-Denver series out of it, because neither of those teams really shoot threes, the team that made more threes won all 5 games in the Minnesota-Golden State series. They tied Indy and Cleveland, both made 11 in Game 2. The team that made more won 4 of 4 games, and the team that made more threes in the Boston-New York series won 4 of the 6 games. So make more threes, you're going to win.
We know that. Yeah. But, Mike, I think those things are related. It's the threes that you get in the playoffs versus the threes that you get in the regular season. We thought we were a good shooting team.
Yeah.
We thought we were a good 3-point shooting team.
We knew we were in the regular season.
That's what I'm saying. In the regular season, when it's mid, you can bang those threes all night long. You got 82 of these to play, boys. It's a marathon, not a sprint. And we fooled ourselves into thinking we were a great 3-point shooting team. I remember in November or December, we had the argument, is this team suddenly this good at shooting threes? How did this happen? It didn't. What happened was the coach insisted we take more of them. Hey, those shots are open. Take them.
Well, the percentages were a lot higher.
They were, and we kept saying, sustainable? Sustainable?
It was for the regular season. In the playoffs, it was not. Problem. But in the regular season,
Here's the problem. And this is what I hope Koby said today, which I doubt he did. We need to re-examine the way we built this team. We need to ask ourselves some very difficult questions. What wins in the playoffs? And you could say 3-pointing because you factually proved that that's true. But I think that is a symptom. A symptom of what kind of play are you facing in the playoffs that you're not seeing in the regular season. Well, it's physicality. Mm-hmm. It's tough. It's at an elevated level. Everything about playoff basketball happens at an elevated level.
Yeah.
And when you take all of those little elements of the game and you elevate them all at the same time, all of those cute swing around 5-pass possessions, wide open corner threes, how many of those did we get in the playoffs?
The Cavs averaged 16.8 NBA.com considered wide open threes per game, down about 4 from the regular season. They shot 25.7% on wide open threes, which would have been 10 points lower than 30th in the NBA during the regular season.
Okay,
and comparison's sake, Jay?
I was unaware of that stat. That's a mind blow.
See, we have a graphic in there with the shooting splits.
That's insane.
They shot
Mike.
42% in the regular season on what NBA.com considers wide open threes.
Right.
That was number 1 in the NBA.
Sure.
Dead last, I forget what team it was, but it was like 35%. And the Cavs shot, there it is, they shot 27% on what NBA.com considers wide open threes.
Now
Absurd.
Why?
Tired legs, which gets back to the depth.
Yes.
I will tell you this. I just took what they said. I went to the closing arguments, the remarks that they did. I went to Game 7. Came back and looked at the media availability when they leave for the off season, and I just took simply when I was on the barbershop. I took simply their words. Kenny Atkinson said those teams were physically able to sustain longer than we were.
Yep.
Yes.
They were able to play at a higher intensity level. And he said one of the things that we notice is that the guys, when we play elite teams, they're staying at home. They have guys that are at the point of defense that can frustrate you and play individual defense where there is no collapsing kick. Guys are staying home. He said elite teams are doing that to us. Now, here's my thing. It's easy to shoot threes when you don't have the closeouts in the regular season. But when you are getting hounded, from the time that the ball is into, you're passing the ball into the court. You're using energy. You're utilizing energy. You got to get these guys. We had 8-second counts. When they're hounding you, we had how many times where we had to call timeouts because we couldn't get the ball in?
A lot against Indy.
When you are dealing with that, and on top of that, they are pounding you on the offensive glass. They are physical when you get to the rim, and they have longer, bigger, lengthier, athletic guys that are guarding your guys. You're in trouble. The dudes that are guarding you are more athletic and they're taller than you. You got 2 6'2" guys and a 6'3" guy, and then you're switching, and they got to guard Siakam on the other end. They're getting Miles Turner on the switch. They're throwing the ball down. Halliburton is long. That wears you down, and the Cavs have to make it. They got to think about it and say, okay, if we know that Okoro and Dean Wade, we've seen that 3 years in a row. We've seen Jared Allen 3 years in a row.
Yep.
We Ty Jerome, boy, oh boy. Sam Merrill, that's 5 dudes right there that you count on regularly, and then you throw in Darius Garland being hobbled or half of what he is because he's slight of build and he's injured. That's 6 dudes. Who are you really? Where are your points? And where's it come from?
There was 4 guys I felt like were real play, and the other guys are giant question marks.
Mike, I'm gonna throw a theory out,
Shoot, yeah,
and
please.
you guys are gonna say I'm crazy, and people
Well,
watching
we'd
this,
say that anyway.
I
so.
know you will. I'm crazy like a fox. I think they went overboard on load management.
Yeah.
I do too.
Kenny Atkinson admitted it.
Oh, he did? Okay, good.
So Joe Varden, immediately following the Game 5 loss, Joe asked him, hindsight's 20/20.
Sure.
But you feel like maybe you gave these guys a little too much time off so they weren't prepared? And his answer was basically, we had a plan that we accumulated before the season.
And that's what I'm talking about.
And the plan was to ramp up some of these guys down the stretch a little more.
Yeah.
But then when we're winning by 30 in so many of these games, if I play Donovan and he rolls an ankle up 30, I can't justify playing him to get to that 38, 39 minute
Yeah, but there were
threshold.
plenty of opportunities
Now-
where he wasn't playing 30 minutes a game,
and
he could have.
In a situation where we
weren't
push
boat racing
back
everybody.
No. In a situation where we could push back and forth, I'm sure Joe would have been like, there's some validity to what you're saying. There's
Yes.
probably some.
Mike,
not that situation,
I'll
but
equate it
I
to-
100% agree.
I'll
by the
equate
way.
it to
And
Major League Baseball.
I think that changes next year, by the way.
But better.
I believe they will.
How
completely
many
approach.
minutes were the Knicks starters averaging this year?
I don't know, but they're most in the league.
Okay.
And we'll see. We'll see how they do.
I
Against
can't
Indy.
wait to see how they do
It's
against
a
Indy.
incredible
Is Indy
litmus
going to
test.
wear down against New York because New York's horses are used to running, in horse racing terms, the mile and 5/8,
Or is
the
it
big race.
Or is it backwards where
Maybe.
because of the
Maybe.
pace that Indiana plays?
We'll find out.
man.
And
Yes.
it's a great experiment because you
Yep.
got a team that is going to try to run the brakes off of a team that is conditioned and used to playing. And here's the analogy I'll give you. It's what I know best. Baseball. Once upon a time, big league pitchers used to throw 150 pitches routinely. Routinely, they could do that.
Easy.
And where were the big gaps in Bob Feller's career from arm injuries? Or any of those guys? Like, you talk about workhorses, 200 innings today is nothing. It's a rarity when once upon a time, a lot of guys could do it. The reason I bring that up is the human body is this incredibly malleable and adaptable, and it develops in progress. And the reason I say that is the Cavs were used to running, and I'm going to call minutes miles because I think it's more impactful when you do it that way. Mm-hmm. The Cavs were used to running a 30-mile race, and then they're like, oh, damn, they moved the finish line. Now it's a 40-mile race.
Can I make that even more appropriate to this Indy series? They were used to running a 30-mile race at an 8-minute mile pace.
That's exactly right. And now they're doing it at a 6-minute mile.
They ran a 40-mile race at a 6:30 mile.
And what happened?
They were completely gassed.
They were done.
And I believe when we look at those shooting splits and the wide open threes is the one that makes no sense.
No, but your explanation is the answer, Mike.
I believe. No, I'm saying
they're tired legs.
I believe it is because these guys by Game 5, and we could argue till we're blue in the face that how can that happen? I don't have a good answer for how it could happen. I'm telling you,
they're tired.
Tired legs leads to terrible shooting, and the Cavs went from being the best jump shooting team in the regular season to the worst jump shooting team
by a mile, Mike, not just
by
the worst.
A long shot.
Give me the minutes.
So Josh Hart, 37.6. Mikal Bridges, 37 minutes. Anunoby, 36.6. Brunson, 35.4. And Cat had 35. That was 5 players above 30 minutes in the regular season.
By the way, I don't think it's a coincidence that they're all right at 35 or 36 minutes.
Yeah.
I think Tibbs' plan was, and by the way, I've mentioned this about him before, during his sabbatical from the NBA, he came and worked at ESPN, and I used to pick his brain in the green room all the time about like processes and what did you do in the off season. You know what this guy did? He went on a goodwill tour. He called all of his buddies who were coaching in the NBA and said, listen, I'm out of work. I clearly need to learn some things. I'd love to come and watch you guys. And he did these like little mini internships. This is a guy who was an NBA coach. And he went to all these teams. You know what he did?
Former coach of the year.
Former coach of the year. You'd think he would have it figured out. He says, I haven't learned anything. If I've learned anything, I've learned how to get fired. Now what I want to learn how to do is how not to get fired. So he went to all of these other programs and took notes. And you know what? I like that. That's interesting. Ooh, maybe, 100% defense for 48 minutes isn't a great idea. And he's blended what he's learned. The New York Knicks do not have a conference championship caliber roster. I know you probably will disagree with me. I think they have a really good roster. I agree with that.
But after the top
six,
I
think we're talking a Final Four team here. Yeah. And I think it's Tibbs learning what he learned, and one of the things he learned was, I'm going to play my guys about 36 minutes. That seems to be a sweet spot.
And not to dump on Jared Allen here, but Mikal Bridges played all 82 games, averaged 37 minutes in the regular season. Allen averaged 28.
Mikal Bridges hasn't missed a game in 8 years.
I'm just saying.
That's insane. That's Iron Man.
It's like 4. And look at his Pro Basketball Reference page. I think it's literally been 5 seasons since he's missed a game. That's
impressive. And he's playing high quality minutes. Jared Allen playing under 30 minutes.
Yeah, averaged 17 points this season.
Nick Saban said something, and he said, once again, I said,
who said this?
Nick Saban.
Nick Saban.
He says, listen, he tells his guys, he said, guys, it's all about mental toughness, is about what it takes for you to fold. The reason we work you so hard when it's hot outside and we bust your ass when we tell you to get to the football and you don't get to the football. All these little things that you think you slide on, we are on you because we need to be able to play at the highest level for the longest period of time. Yep. And that is why we do that. And so for me, when you see your coach say, when Darius Garland says, we really showed people in the regular season, but then when the regular season was over, we didn't put forth the effort in the playoffs. when you hear Max Strus, who's a veteran, who came from the Miami Heat way, who know they in shape. If there's one thing you know, you play for Pat Riley and Spoelstra, you are in peak shape. Even the guy
Train like the game's going to be 5 quarters.
And this guy, he said, for whatever reason, we weren't ready to go game 1. You've been to the final. When you say that strikes me as the lack of awareness in the organization, because he played for the Heat. He knows he has to be ready game 1.
How many game 1s did LeBron lose, though? Like,
here's the thing. The thing about LeBron.
There are some comments that I'm okay with, like ripping apart. I don't think that one is.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing. What I'm saying is, when you're looking at the last 4 years, right? You looking at the game against the Knicks. You've been losing different ways every time. The Knicks, you got out physical. They beat you up. Against the Celtics, you were outman, out athlete, and they shot better than you did. This series, they outran you.
They
outlasted you. They outconditioned you. So you have to think as the Cavs, okay, what are we doing here? Because the way I look at it, and I'm gonna get your answer on this. Detroit is coming, man. Detroit and Orlando are on the rise. They got the thing that those guys have. They got guys 6'7" Cade Cunningham, 6'10" Paolo Banchero, and when those guys are your primary ball handlers, primary facilitators, and you got a small backcourt with 6'2" and 6'3", if you guys don't develop a style that y'all gonna play in the playoffs, you will never win. They have to figure out, what do we do?
I think the real question is, and I don't know the answer, but is what they do in the regular season transferable to the postseason? And I know the Warriors did it, but the Warriors, you know what we need? We need a Draymond Green. We need bigger guards, number one, or one of the two. I think both of these guys are tremendous, and both could be stars on separate teams together. But you're asking undersized guards who are both ball dominant, you're asking them to transfer that into the playoffs where I don't know how it works. I don't know how that looks.
I mean, if you was playing the Cavs, what would you do in the playoffs? If they got,
what we've seen happen.
we gonna hunt that matchup all day.
And it's a great leeway. And I really want to get Jason, because I've tried to stay off Twitter. I don't
He'll be
exactly
ready
know
about 12:40.
Well, then let's do the next topic then, because it leads right into toughness. And it's a topic about toughness. Before
Bridges
Jason
has only missed 11 regular season games since 2018. Sorry.
Yeah, he does, and he didn't miss a game at Villanova, and never missed a game in high school either. Like, the dude's the ultimate Iron Man. Yeah.
He's tough. He's durable. Speaking of tough, we got to do a read before we go to this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Reminder today, guys, that today's episode is brought to you by Epicor. Every team knows the value of hard work, of taking pride in what you build, and in practicing every detail to get the best results. But no one player, no matter how amazing, can do it all alone. Working together makes getting the win easier. At Epicor, the all-stars are the hardworking manufacturers, distributors, and who create and deliver the things we all need, from aerospace to electrical and medical devices. Epicor ERP solutions are created by industry experts to help make every day easier by seeing your entire supply chain, managing logistics, and responding to price changes easier. From small business with big dreams to growing enterprises with a global vision, we'll equip you with the right tools to move forward, think ahead, and lead the way. Because as the clock ticks down, you need to make the most out of every hardworking minute, and easier doesn't cut corners, easier finds the lane. Discover your success at www.easierwithepicor.com. That's www.easierwithepicor.com.
All right, let's talk toughness.
Can I set this up?
Yeah, set it up.
So, we've talked at length about the Cavs' toughness and lack thereof, right? Mm-hmm. And it got me thinking. And we were going to do this draft style, but because we have 7 minutes, let's just talk about the guys that would be on the Mount Rushmore then. Of the modern era, 2000 to current day, who are some of the toughest athletes?
Oh, I didn't see that in your setup.
In Cleveland.
I missed that. My bad.
What?
The 21st century part.
Well, we go back. I was just trying to think of guys that.
Because, I mean, Jim Brown.
Yeah, I mean, he's an obvious one.
Right.
So we're going to do this draft style and each make a 4-person Mount Rushmore.
All right, let's go.
Vote on it. But because we have said, let's just talk about the guys who.
Let's go around the horn. You start with a name, and then we'll just keep going around until we run out of names.
I thought Joe Thomas was the easy 1-1. We talked about the consecutive snap streak, the position, the sport. To me, he was
and the level of play.
Yeah, he was the easy 1-1 guy. It didn't matter how bad the Browns were. Joe Thomas was showing up every single game.
I think this is a sneaky one, Tristan Thompson.
He was on my list, but way down my big board.
Yeah, he was way down mine too, but he was definitely a guy that I put on my list.
How many games he play in a row or something?
I just thought he was tough. I mean, I mean, durable is Joe Thomas and
tough.
And tough.
And there's no defined definition of tough. It
No.
is kind of up to the eye of the beholder. But Jay,
and because I'm the oldest guy, I have the old guys on the list because I didn't see the 21st century part. I put Ray Fosse, Jim Brown, and Bob Feller on my list.
well, give us a little 10 seconds on each one of the wide.
Ray Fosse got his collarbone busted when Pete Rose slammed into him at a home plate collision 1970 All-Star game. Played for the next month with a broken collarbone.
Yep.
And the Indians at the time, fantastic medical staff, misdiagnosed it. It really shortened his career. He was an All-Star player when he was a rookie. He was a great player, and that was it. Jim Brown goes without speaking.
Yep.
He got the ball 25 times a game, and the other team knew he was going to get it. And they all collided towards him. It wasn't a passing league then.
Cheap shots.
And what was crazy about Jim Brown, my dad told me about, I never watched him play. I wasn't born. But my dad said every single play, Jim Brown would look like he just got hit by a Mack truck. 8 guys hit him at once. And he would get up, and the announcers would be like, oh, he's probably going to go to the sideline. And he would get up slow, and he looked like he was going to collapse. He would walk back to the huddle. They would snap the ball, give it to him, and like he got shot out of a rocket every time. So he was tough. Bob Feller, in the middle of the height of a future Hall of Fame career, on December 8th, 1941, went down to the recruiting office in his hometown in Iowa and signed up to go fight in World War or World War II. Does it get any tougher than that?
Yeah.
And was durable and was, you can put him in the argument for one of the greatest right-handed pitchers of all time. But my next guy is
you just took 3 guys.
No, those were the 3 guys that I put on my list that were pre-21st century.
Okay.
All the other guys played in a modern era, except for Larry Doby. Larry Doby needs to be on that list. He was more mentally tough
than anyone.
This was a guy who, in his book, wrote about a time when he was staying at the all-black hotel and couldn't hail a cab, couldn't get a ride to the game, so he put his uniform on at the hotel and walked in Washington, D.C. from the hotel to the stadium in his spikes.
Crazy.
And the things he had to hear and endure, tough.
Absolutely on the list.
But Peyton Hillis
Good one.
is on my list. Ran hard every single play, and as a big man, which isn't easy, had to overcome riptide currents and literally ended up in the hospital, and some thought he was going to die from it to save 2 young relatives who were otherwise going to drown.
That was crazy.
Who's your next
I was
pick?
going with Bernie Kosar. No,
it's a good one.
Bernie, he couldn't even get out of the way of some of them hits.
Yeah, he was.
He had no way to get out of them hits. He took them, and it's documented. You hear Bernie talk about it, but in terms of just being able to call your own plays, being able to put yourself back in a huddle, be able to keep standing up, taking them hits. I got Bernie on the list on that joint.
He estimates something like 50 concussions.
Yeah, that's what
He said we called it getting our bell rung, but he said we had a standard number. It was always going to be 2 fingers, always. And like how many fingers do I have up? And the ref would see that and be like, okay, you're good to go. Because it would be it would be so quick. But he said half the time I didn't even know where I was.
Crazy.
I put Josh Cribbs on there because you know how much back then. This is before helmet to helmet. This man was running on kickoffs and punts, full speed. And that's how he made his way. There wasn't no illegal helmets, hits, or none of that stuff. So I got Josh Cribbs on there as well.
You got another one?
I got a. We're going to do draft. We've kind of gone out of draft order, but LeBron has to be on the list. LeBron has to be on the list.
I thought about putting LeBron on the list.
We talked about guys.
I see him leaving the floor on a wheelchair.
No, that was what Paul Pierce did. Paul Pierce in the wheelchair.
LeBron has to be on the list for better or worse.
LeBron is durable.
But that durability is crazy.
It's toughness in the sense
watching him fall when he gets bumped on the elbow like he just got sniped.
Jay, you have 1 game to win. Do you want LeBron on your team or not?
Yes.
Okay.
He's tough.
You win. LeBron's
also
on the Mount Rushmore.
Delhi died on the court, basically.
He gave it his all.
You want to talk about tough?
Yeah.
And we're just throwing names out.
So the way they roll in Australia.
Jose Ramirez has to be on this list.
100%. Jose's on my list.
Because he's an MMA fighter. He got tough. He got hands of stone.
Well, down goes Anderson.
Hands of stone, bro.
Think about this. And this is a mind blow. And I wonder what Tom Hamilton thinks about this. Next time we have him on the show, I want to ask him this. Tom Hamilton is now a Hall of Fame broadcaster. he has called incredible games with all kinds of drama for the Guardians. But I think his most signature call is down goes Anderson, down goes Anderson.
I think
Didn't
it
we
is too.
ask him about that when he was on?
Last time he was on, I wasn't here.
Well, we asked about
that's
the
right.
call.
That's right.
So, but I would like to know, like, is that your greatest call?
We didn't ask him that. We asked him about the call, not is that your best,
Yeah.
is that your favorite.
But wouldn't you say that's his most iconic call?
You're asking the person who's been in Cleveland for 3 years to
I've
go
been
back.
here. I've been here.
But I can't tell you another Hammy, and I listen to Hammy on the radio.
They're all
way
great.
More.
They're all
but
great.
When I think of Hammy,
Down goes Anderson.
that is what I think.
Down
of.
goes Anderson.
Yeah. Gee, who else
Yeah.
you got? I got a few more, but who else you got?
Man, listen.
Joe Charbonneau's got to be on there. The guy would stitch up his own cuts with a rusty needle. Open beer bottles with his eye socket.
That's nasty work.
Busted our set all to hell when
He
he
did.
came in here.
I had Corey Kluber on the list too.
I don't know. I don't know about Kluber. I don't want to say he's not.
I
tough.
surveyed a bunch of my friends.
Yeah, I just don't know
some of these
about
previous
Kluber.
ones. But going on 3 days rest, time after time after time,
Yeah,
the way he did.
That was impressive.
I know the game 7 did not.
It almost seems like we don't have enough football guys on here. Clay Matthews was tough.
DeQuell.
DeQuell was tough.
I need to think. Oh,
Tim Couch.
Eric Turner.
Yeah, Tim Couch could be on the list.
Eric
Turner was a badass.
Eric
God
Turner.
dang.
Eric Turner was the first dude that I felt like there was an enforcer for the Cleveland. The Browns don't got enforcers. They got guys that drag guys down and they play flag football.
You remember Don Rogers?
Yes.
Played for 1 year and then had the untimely overdose.
Yeah. I can't,
cocaine, I want to say.
I can't believe that. That's wild.
Terrible story. That dude was a hitter. He was destined to be a decade-long star in the NFL.
Yeah.
Can I give one more name before we get Jason?
So throw it out.
Stipe.
Oh, that's easy.
I know it's not Cleveland.
Yeah,
but
that's a
Stipe-
good one. You know what? I hadn't
Stipe's
thought
got
of that.
Stipe's got to be.
Yeah,
on
but
the
I hadn't
list.
thought of that. I was trying to think like boxers, but I didn't go.
Abdullah Mason. Throw him on there,
we
too.
know a lot of boxers for Cleveland. I mean, they got to be on the list, right?
Yeah, we do. We've had a history of them. Do we have to do a read before we bring Jason in, or can we just?
No,
go
you
to
can
him?
just actually bring Jason straight in. I don't have to do
All right,
anything.
Jason. Before we get to the Cavs stuff, did we miss any of the toughest athletes in Cleveland history?
Oh man, I wasn't listening. Who'd you get? Who'd you meet?
All right. Well, I think we got them all, but I just wanted to ask you about that. Who's the toughest athlete that you can name in Cleveland history?
Toughest athlete I can name in Cleveland history. Man, I'm sure there's some Browns players from back in the day that I'm not.
Yeah, I went with
didn't
Jim
check.
Brown. I threw Peyton Hillis on the list. Dude was so tough he had to
Hey.
swim for 20
How
minutes. to
we
save two
miss
lives.
Albert Bell and Eddie Murray?
Because the question was 2000 and on, and then we went
Yeah,
back.
I
so,
missed that
yeah.
part of it.
But
Oh, 2000.
I had Joe Thomas was my
Albert Bell
1-1
tough,
pick
yeah.
here.
Albert Bell was definitely tough. All right, what's your headline from Koby's postmortem?
This team's coming back, and that's not a surprise. Like when they made the trade for DeAndre, it's sort of the die was cast then on what this team is going to look like for the next couple of years, just because where they're at with the apron rules and with everything else, this is who they are. And I wrote after the season, I don't know how you can bring Jared back. I still kind of stand by that, but I get the position that they're in and why they feel like they have to run it back. And Koby, I thought he handled it well. I all things considered, he said, we got to get mentally tougher. And I asked him if mental toughness relates at all to playing through injuries. And he's pointed out that all 4 teams still alive are totally healthy. And they have all their rotational players. And obviously the Cavs were not in that position. But he said Darius needs to get physically stronger. And I thought that was an important note to make. And he said, they had all the offensive numbers and metrics where they wanted more possessions than the Pacers, and they did that. Where they lost, it was in the shooting. They just didn't shoot it well, which is obviously pretty important. And he talked about mental toughness in terms of getting the offensive rebound at the foul line, getting the ball over half court, getting the inbounds pass. He said game 2, wrecked them. And game 2 is going to be something that's going to be hard for them they're going to have to live with that for a while. It's going to be hard for them to get over. And he referenced game 2 a couple of different times of really a turning point in the series. And he's right. We mentioned it's totally different if you're going 1-1 back to Indy, and really coming back here 2-2 is totally different after that horrendous game 4. So nothing terribly surprising that he said, other than, he believes in this core. He loves the core. He loves what they've built. and he wants to run it back again and see what they can do next year.
Did Koby say anything about coaching and teaching toughness and mental toughness and how you go about that? It's one thing to say we have to get mentally tougher, but did he dive into any of the specifics on how he plans on that?
I think it's just more like having to deal with this, the fallout of this, and never wanting to experience this again, and having to listen to everything that's been said and written and will be said and written. And he said, like, it's on us to change the narrative. Like, we have to change that. And, I don't expect you guys to defend us. Like, we have to learn from this and get better. And sort of, it's what I said on the show before. Like, Donovan is obsessed and consumed with winning. Now, how do you get the rest of them there? Well, this probably helps to get them there and get them across the line. And so, he wants to see this through. He talked about Dan's patience, which I don't think anyone has ever mentioned Dan's patience before. It's always his checkbook. No one has ever talked about Dan in a patient way. But, he said, like, the Gilbert family is seeing this through, and they want to see this through, and they want to see where this can go. And he referenced, he's mentioned this before, but he mentioned Boston was together 7 years before they won the championship. He said the Thunder had the tough loss in the semifinals last year after a great year. And then they come back this year and they break through and they get through and they move on to the conference finals after a 7-game series with Denver. And they kept the core intact, which is true. But also, Oklahoma City traded Josh Giddey and brought in Alex Caruso. And the Celtics traded Marcus Smart and brought in Alex Porzingis. So while they do keep the core moderately intact, both of those teams did make some pretty crucial changes before they broke through.
Jason, at the end of the year, we listened to Kenny talking, and Kenny says, we gotta. He admitted we gotta get stronger. We felt like the Pacers were physically able to play at a certain level. McNuggets mentioned this during the show. A lot of those games, they weren't. They were resting their guys. They weren't really playing them deep into games. Do you think the tone of camp, the tone of their workout regimen will change a little bit now in terms of making sure that their minutes are restricted? Or do you feel like they're going to say, hey, Darius, Jared, I need y'all to come back 15 pounds heavier, hit these weights, and we're going to play guys more during the regular season? Or do you think they'll still do minutes management?
I think that they're pleased with how the regular season went. He said that they have conquered the regular season, that 50-win season in there, 50-whatever-win season in there, 64-win season in there. Now they have to figure out how to win those next 16 after that. And there is a difference. But in terms of how they manage the regular season, I think they're happy with how they manage the regular season because Darius played a career high in games. He played in 71 games. Jarrett played in 82 games. And the goal was to be healthy going into the playoffs, and they were. So they feel like they accomplished that. It was just he didn't use injuries as an excuse, but he did reference a couple times that they weren't right, they weren't whole. Darius was playing on 9 toes, blah, 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 blah. So the injuries sort of struck him at the worst possible time. And that's when he said again that, the 4 teams that are standing, all of their rotational guys are healthy. And he thinks that matters. And so how do you figure that out? And is it something to figure out, or is it luck? I don't know. Is there something they could do differently from a training and performance standpoint? I do get why they did how they handled the regular season the way that they did. And we didn't, no one complained about it then. We praised them for it that, hey, look, Boston's coming up, they're undefeated, and they're still sitting Donovan because they're sticking to their plan. And look how impressive that is. So I can't come back and knock them for it now.
No,
Because
Jay, don't we have? But now there is a season of both regular season and postseason where we can. Because you're right. In the moment, it seemed like logical. It seems like, well, yeah, the best thing to do is to manage their minutes. But when you look at the Knicks, all of their starters averaged 35, 36 minutes.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that we touched on here was, and this is a mind-blowing stat, and I hope my question to you is ultimately going to be, did Koby address that? You shoot the ball better than any team in the NBA during the regular season on wide-open three-pointers. Not only would the rate that you shot the ball in the playoffs have finished dead last, it would have been dead last by 8 percentage points.
Yeah.
I asked Mike, Why? What happened? Same wide open shots. He said, your legs are tired. The reason I say all that is to say this. If your legs are tired, if you're running for a marathon, which we talked about at the beginning of the show, so it's a little timely. If you're training for a marathon, you have to be ready to run 26 miles on race day. That doesn't mean that you run 26 miles every day leading up to it, but if all of a sudden you're needing to run, and I'll use miles instead of minutes, if you need to run 38 or 40 miles and you've only run 28 or 30 miles, those extra 10 miles, that's an area that you haven't gone, and you're doing it night after night after night. Did he explain how they went from the best three-point shooting team on open threes to what would have been the worst by 8 percentage points in the playoffs? What happened?
No, I mean, that specifically didn't come up in terms of the shooting performance in the final series against the Pacers. When you talk about Tibbs, I like Tibbs. I think Tibbs is a really good NBA coach, and it's easy to point to now and say, well, look, New York did it right. They're in the conference finals. Where have the Knicks been the last 30 years?
No. It's not that they did it right. It worked.
The year before and the year before.
Well, last year against Indiana, the Knicks broke down. That's how Indiana made the Eastern Conference Finals last year. They literally beat the Knicks. And the Knicks had, I think, 3 injuries to their top 6 guys against Indy last year. I mean, I'm just pointing out, it worked this year. But
yeah, it's easy to look at the Knicks and say, well, they did it right and the Cavs did it wrong. I don't know if it's necessarily that simple or not. To me, it's more of a being able to – this is just me. This isn't Kobe. This is just me talking. It's being able to play through injuries because every team's going to be hurt. Like Jalen Brunson's banged up, so you could say that the Knicks are whole – and they're not missing any rotational pieces, but they're not missing any rotational pieces because Brunson's just playing through it. And so that
same with
to
Halliburton.
Me, great point. Same with Halliburton. So that's why I asked Kobe, when you talk about mental toughness, how does that relate to playing through injuries? And because that's it, to me, it's the mindset of, you know, I mean, I don't know if you guys talked about it or not, but that 11-minute clip from Road Tripping of Perk, Channing Frye, and Richard Jefferson.
Oh, my God.
Unbelievable. And, I mean, that's Cavs royalty, basically, when you talk about RJ and Channing, and to a lesser extent Perk. But one thing all three of those dudes have in common is championships.
Yep.
They've all won. And so they know what it takes to get there more than anybody else on this current roster, aside from Tristan. Tristan knows. But so when they talk, it's time to stand up and listen. So that's where I go with it And he didn't really want to – I don't think he really wanted to equate what I was asking, mental toughness, to necessarily playing through injuries. But he did say Darius has to get stronger. He physically has to get stronger, and he's right. He does. He dismissed the idea of the small backcourt. He said, we can put that to rest. They can play together just fine. They're 2 all-stars back there. They both made the all-star team, and he's right. But Darius does have to bulk up and get stronger. He does have to do – like if you have one of those 3 guys, it's easy to say, well – they didn't have any of their guys in game 2 and they still almost won. Okay, well, they didn't win. But if they had one of those 3, is that last minute different? Can they get the ball in bounds if one of those 3 dudes is on the floor? If Darius is out there, can they get the ball across half court? It's those little things, and then it's a totally different series. So that's where I would go with it. And, hey, listen, take nothing away from the Knicks. They're having a great year. But I would caution saying, well, look at the way Tibbs is doing it. He's doing it right. Because certainly no one, and maybe they would go on and win it all, but no one. This is their first time getting to this level in quite some time.
I just think maybe I don't know if they'll probably feel it because they say we're going to kill them for it, but it's difficult for fans to get. I mean, we're not even in the conference championship, right? You lose to the Knicks and it was 4-1. It wasn't close. You lose to the Celtics. It was 4-1. Wasn't close. You got beat in this series to the Pacers. It was not close. So it's tough for fans to say, well, how all of a sudden are we going to believe that next year with the same roster that Jared Allen just, you know what, it's going to click for me and I'm going to be a dog. Nah, Channing Frye, and they talked about that. And I believe, they have to have some deep soul searching. Or, to me, Evan Mobley's going to have to be Kevin Garnett or something. Or he's going to turn into that.
Well, that's it, G. And I probably should have mentioned this sooner. But that was a couple different points. Kobe sort of referenced Evan taking another step. And how this franchise is depending on internal growth. And when he says that, he's talking about Evan. And I would go, like how many times I say on the show, I thought when we get to the end of the playoffs, we're going to look back and say Evan's the most important piece. Well, that wasn't the case. It was still Donovan. I think next year that has to be the case for this team to get to the levels to break through this hurdle. I mean, how many years have we tried it now? Has Donovan tried it to be the lead dog on a team?
8 years.
What, 8 years now? 8 years.
Hasn't made a conference
After 8
final.
years, I think we have our answer. So it's time for a new formula. And if you're not going to break it up, then the new formula to me is Evan continuing on that trajectory that Mike and I have been saying all along we believe he's capable of doing. He's got to get there. And Kobe sort of challenged, hey, the 13 shots, which I think was in reference to game one, Donovan took 30, Ty took 20, and Evan had 13, that, Evan, you got to take more shots than that. And he acknowledged there was a question about, do you need another ball handler? And he acknowledged, hey, maybe the answer is we got to put the ball in Evan's hands more often. So I think that they are very much looking at this as Evan, the trajectory of Evan determining the fate of this franchise. And if he continues to grow, and obviously he had a breakthrough, I think we can all agree he had a breakthrough this year, but that's still not good enough to where they ultimately want to go. He has to have yet another, and I believe it's in there. There's another level or two to him that he's going to have to get to really by next year, because, we've talked about it at length. We'll talk about it all summer. But the rules changed. It used to be as long as your owner was willing to write checks, you could keep a group together as long as you want. And that's just not the reality that we live in anymore. And the reality is this team has probably 2 years left as it's currently constructed to win. And then they're going to have to start breaking off pieces, whether we want them to or not. That's just the reality of the situation that they're in. They're probably going to have to make significant changes in 2 more years. So the clock's ticking. He's got 2 years to get this done.
The 13 field goals is in reference to the whole series. Didn't take more than 13 field goals in any game against Indiana, which is unacceptable. Jason, real quick, we got 1 minute to answer this, but did Kobe mention the rest of the Eastern Conference and the uncertainty with Tatum and Giannis and just the wide openness of the East playing any factor into what they'll do moving forward?
Yeah, it didn't really come up. That's a bad job out of me. I should have asked about that. It was really essentially focused to the Cavs. Someone at the end asked him about the Pacers and Knicks series. He's like, it's going to be hard for me to watch that, obviously under the circumstances. But the East is wide open. I don't think we need him to tell us that. Let's see how the rest of this series plays out and these playoffs play out. But I do think there's a decent chance Giannis goes and the Boston is going to break up. So it's there for them. And I think that's part of the reason why he wants to keep this thing together and see it through. Yeah,
you mentioned, when you say it, the Pacers, Knicks, and Celtics, the 3 teams that have knocked the Cavs off in the last 3 years. They're losing to quality teams. All these teams have made conference finals now. It's their turn. And I agree with what he said about Evan Mobley. He's got to take another level. But I also think that you're putting too much of the focus on Evan Mobley. Of all of the players from 2 seasons ago to last season, Evan Mobley made the biggest jump. He won the Defensive Player of the Year award. It's fine to call him out and say you got to find another level. But where's Jared Allen's jump to the next level? Darius Garland on the physicality part, he can make a jump. It can't just be all, okay, Evan, get better again.
No, I hear you, and you're right. And he did say Darius has got to get physically stronger. Jared, I think Jared is what he is. I don't think anyone is expecting some big leap out of Jared. How many years has he been in the league now? You know what he is. He's consistent to a point, and that's who he is. The Evan piece is only because, I just think if anyone has a chance to break through to top 5 player in the NBA, I think it's Evan Mobley. And I think they see it that way as well.
That's fair. All right, Jay, great job. We got to run. Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, see you guys.
All right. Nothing surprised me. Of course, they're going to bring him back. They don't have a move to make.
We're going to do an Ultimate Cav show tomorrow morning to dive into some deeper stuff because Jason's not on until Thursday.
Excellent.
And Super Chats, what's up?
Yeah, we got 2 Super Chats. One comes from Mr. 216. G, the hat is fire. Where'd you get it from?
Oh, I got this hat. Let me see where I got this from. Let me see.
His mom got it for him.
My mom got me the hoodie. This hat, I'm trying to think. I was just there when I got this at Beechwood Mall.
Nice.
Is it the lids?
Yeah.
Wow, I haven't bought a hat in a mall since I bought a cassette.
See that gray in there?
It's been a minute.
See that gray in there?
It's the shape of Ohio.
Yeah,
I like that.
It's a cool hat.
I like that a lot.
All right, last one from Evan419. Prayers up for anybody on the road right now while Jason is racing home.
He made it, though. He made it, though.
Streaming the latest episode of
Severance.
Severance.
Yeah, Severance and or whatever. Pick one.
Jason on the roads, that's no joke.
No,
Yeah.
that should be a hell of a reality TV show. If you could somehow put a GoPro in Jason's car out and inward as Jason's driving.
Yeah,
Well,
but
his
see, I think
phone
that would
couldn't
just
connect
encourage
in
more bad
from the
driving.
car,
No,
so-
could it get much worse?
We don't want that. No, I mean from other people. Like people would watch that and say, oh, I could probably.
Yeah, no, you're right.
stream
Terrible. I've had some bad ideas. That might be the worst one I've had on the show. Yeah.
I don't know. The idea you had to let defensive linemen bring knives was
That
pretty
was
good.
wild.
I said that was a bad idea. That was brilliant. This most recent
No,
one
that was a bad idea.
Just wait
that
to,
was a bad
wait to hear
idea.
my grenade in a football idea.
What?
Yeah.
For punters, you kick it out of bounds twice in a game, there's a grenade in it. You got to live with the consequences.
Oh my God. This is a death sport. All right, we're out of time. Thanks for watching the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show on this Monday. Overtime's next. What are we talking about in overtime?
I wanted to talk about the WNBA scuffle this weekend.
Oh, yeah, that's a
Caitlin
good one.
Clark and
Angel
Reese.
Reese.
I
Wow,
didn't
man,
even see that.
Indiana put a beat down. Absolute beat down. But Angel Reese played very well.
I didn't see that one.
She led in points and rebounds. 17 rebounds? No? Mikey's going to tell you in overtime.